Chapter 125. Coiling Dragon Mountain Range, 100 Zhang Waterfall. Rumble. The sound of water rumbled like thunder. 100 zhang tall waterfall poured down like a huge thunderbolt cutting through the sky. It poured into a huge deep pool, causing waves of water to explode. Water splashed in all directions and water vapor overflowed. Chu Yang stood at the foot of the waterfall and felt the ground tremble. Endless water vapor assaulted his face. Looking at the huge waterfall in front of him, he couldn't help but exclaim, "What a majestic waterfall!" The waterfall poured into a deep pool, and the water behind it was like a rolling river, pouring into a huge lake. The lake was sparkling, and under the sunlight, it was even more dazzling. The lake was very wide, and the torrents formed by the waterfall rushed into this huge lake, and were instantly annihilated and calmed down. The entire lake was like a mirror. This should be the 100 zhang waterfall, the sun and moon lake. There's no mistake. Ever since Chu Yang left the Coiling Dragon secret realm, he had rushed here without stopping. This place was already considered to be deep in the Coiling Dragon mountain range. There were many Chi Soul stage demonic beasts. If he went a little deeper, he would probably easily encounter ascending soul stage demonic beasts. I'll first recover my true Chi and count my assets. Then I'll go and try out the trial that the Azure Dragon School painstakingly prepared for his precious son. Chu Yang had already killed Song Hongtu. Even if he was only at the 8th level of the Origin Martial stage and not the Chi Soul stage, he felt that it shouldn't be a problem for him to pass this trial. Who? Letting out a long breath, Chu Yang began to recover his true Chi. After about 2 hours, his true Chi had completely recovered. All of his exhaustion was gone and he was in high spirits. Then he took out Song Hongtu's storage ring and counted it. There were as many as 5 bottles of Azure Dragon pills, Chi-generating pills, and spirit-accumulating pills. However, there were very few spirit-nurturing pills. There were also none of the martial skills. Presumably, Song Hongtu thought that he had already reached the Chi Soul stage and didn't need spirit-nurturing pills and Origin Martial stage technique. All in all, Song Hongtu's storage ring was almost empty, but his gains were definitely not shallow. Among them were the Azure Dragon School's sect masters' experiences in alchemy, pill recipes, and fire control. There was also a detailed introduction to the cultivation of the Chi Soul realm, as well as cultivation experiences and precautions. Especially the latter, which was something Chu Yang desperately needed. As for alchemy, he had always planned to do it, but he never had the time. The cultivation of martial arts is all about alchemy. The human body is alchemy. Skin, flesh, tendons, bones, and organs are all medicinal materials. True Chi is refined by alchemy fire, divine water, and so on. Refining with alchemy fire and quenching with divine water. Refining with alchemy fire and quenching with divine water, quenching one's mind, spirit, chi, faith, spirit, willpower, courage, and ambition. Body, hair, skin, bones, and flesh. The body is like a pill, crystal clear, without any impurities. Chu Yang opened the alchemy book. Just by looking at the foreword, he felt that there was a great truth contained within. The more he understood, the more he would gain. The principles of alchemy and cultivation were the same, and the two were perfectly integrated together, which greatly broadened Chu Yang's horizons. In alchemy, fire refinement is the most common, followed by water refinement. Other than these two, there are still many other refinement methods. Unfortunately, there were no other refinement method. It was said that they had already been lost. Later on, the emphasis was placed on the water and fire refinement method. Water and fire could be considered yin and yang. They could also be called dragon and tiger, or sun and moon. These two strange forces restrained each other. If one could combine fire and water in alchemy and cultivation, yin and yang would coexist, and the sun and moon would coexist. Not only would one be able to achieve unparalleled results, there would also be unimaginable benefits. water and fire combining, yin and yang coexisting, and the sun and moon coexisting. It seems simple, but it was incomparably difficult. Very few people were able to do it. This problem not only trapped many alchemists, it was also a problem that most martial artists faced. Water and fire coexist, yin and yang coexist. The sword heart heavenly flame and the blade crystal earth water are two divine items. The Azure Dragon School's sect master spent a lot of effort for his treasured son. Unfortunately, it all ended up benefiting me. Chu Yang's forehead was also slightly covered in cold sweat. He still had some lingering fear. If he had killed Zhao Yunhu and seized the sword heart heavenly flame and was discovered, he would have died without a doubt. Water and fire refinement is the best method for refining body and alchemy. It seems like I have to obtain this blade crystal earth water no matter what. Chapter 126. After Chu Yang read through all the alchemy techniques, he tried to control the fire according to the instructions. He had the sword heart heavenly flame, so he could use it to create alchemy fire. Another way to create alchemy fire was to use qi to create fire. Controlling fire with qi. Chu Yang gathered his qi and with a thought, a flame appeared in his palm. It was very simple. After that, he controlled the strength of his qi to control the size and temperature of the flame. For Chu Yang, who had the innate great sun treasured body, this was not difficult at all. He quickly lost interest and started to read the records related to the Qi Soul realm. There were 9 levels of the Qi Soul realm: Yuan realm, 2 elements realm, 3 talents realm, 4 symbols realm, 5 elements realm, 6 directions realm, 7 stars realm, 8 trigrams realm, and 9 palaces realm. The Yuan realm was actually one type of qi, while the 2 elements realm was 2 types of qi. After that, every realm would increase 1 type of qi. As for the 1 origin, 2 polarities, 3 talents, 4 divisions, 5 elements, 6 directions, 7 stars, 8 trigrams, and 9 palaces, the concepts contained within them were too high. It was almost impossible for someone at the Qi Soul realm to achieve them. The most basic qi in the world were metal, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, thunder, light, and darkness. If one wanted to cultivate all 9 types of qi, it was basically impossible. The reason was the same as before. The Qi Soul realm was too low, so it was difficult to master all 9 types of qi. Therefore, the wider the range of qi, the harder it was to cultivate. This led to the narrow range of qi. To be exact, it was very fine and small. For example, sword essence. Cultivating 9 sword techniques would allow one to form 9 types of sword essence and reach the 9th level of the Qi Soul realm. Saber essence. Cultivating 9 saber techniques would allow one to form 9 types of saber essence. The range of qi was even wider. For example, beast essence and soldier essence. Beast essence was the qi of demonic beasts. Cultivating 9 types of beast essence, such as horse, monkey, snake, elephant, tiger, and crocodile, would allow one to reach the 9th level of the Qi Soul realm. Soldier essence was the qi of weapon essence. Sabers, spears, swords, halberds, and 18 types of weapons would allow one to reach the 9th level of the Qi Soul realm. The greater the division of true essence, the more difficult it would be to cultivate, but the more powerful it would be. Chu Yang was completely refreshed. Only now did he realize that there was such a huge gap between the Qi Soul stage. In addition to the cultivation of true essence, there was also another cultivation method mentioned: body cultivation. The Qi Soul realm focused on refining the Zhen Yuan, focusing on the martial spirit and Zhen Yuan. It didn't focus on the cultivation of the physical body. Therefore, the increase of each realm in the Qi Soul realm didn't increase the strength of the physical body by much. Each realm only increased the strength of one elephant. Body cultivation did not refine true essence, it was a completely different kind of cultivation method. True qi was born from the physical body, and when the physical body was strong to a certain extent, what was born was naturally no longer true chi, but true essence. However, cultivation was extremely difficult and dangerous, and the progress was extremely slow. Only after cultivating the strength of 10 elephants, which was equivalent to the strength of 1 dragon, would one be able to cultivate true yuan. After that, the strength of 2 dragons would be equivalent to the Chi Soul Realm's 2 elements origin realm, the 3 talents origin realm, and so forth. The strength of 1 dragon is almost equivalent to the strength of the first layer of the ascending soul stage. How difficult would it be to cultivate the strength of 1 dragon? Chu Yang was speechless. This was an extreme cultivation method, and he felt it the most. He had formed the body of sword path, and had almost become a pure innate life form. He had even gone through an intense cultivation, but he only had the strength of 4 elephants. After that, there was still the strength of 6 elephants. How could he achieve that? Moreover, the path ahead was already cut off. It was said that the cultivation method was too difficult, and was completely abandoned by people. In the end, the cultivation method was completely cut off. Overlord Fist. Therefore, when he saw the Overlord Fist cultivation method, Chu Yang was still hesitating whether to cultivate it or not. After all, it was too time-consuming. It was completely abandoning the mainstream and stepping on the road to a dead end. It was definitely not an exaggeration to say that. Let's not think about this Overlord Fist for now. I should go and get the Blade Crystal Earthwater as soon as possible. Otherwise, when the Azure Dragon School knows that Song Hongtu was killed, they will definitely think of coming to get the Blade Crystal Earthwater themselves. If they react, I will be in danger. Chapter 127. Swish. Within the rumbling sound of water, Chu Yang flew towards the other side of the lake. If one were to use the 100-jiang waterfall as a reference point, then the Sun-Moon Cave would be on the other side of the lake. Chu Yang naturally did not dare to fly across the wide surface of the lake. If a Chi Soul Realm demonic beast suddenly appeared in the lake, it would not be strange at all. But in the water, his battle power would be greatly reduced, and he would probably cry his eyes out. Caw-caw. After a while, Chu Yang's feet solidly stepped on skeletons one after another. It was not that he was disrespectful to the dead, but there was simply no place for him to step on. He stopped and slightly looked around. There were skeletons everywhere. If they were not the skeletons of beasts, then they were the skeletons of humans. Densely packed with white bones, in front of such a beautiful scenery, it was extremely strange. However, Chu Yang was a little confused. Don't snakes swallow their food whole? Why are there so many skeletons? Further in, there was not a single demonic beast, nor was there any life form. It seemed that other than the plants, everything was already dead. However, there were still some smelly corpses and even some new skeletons. Are these from the Zhao family and Azure Dragon School? If so, then the rainbow heaven-swallowing python should not be far from here. Especially when there was not a single living thing in the surroundings, it made Chu Yang even more certain that he was close to danger. If there was not a terrifying existence here, it would not be like this. The sword heart heavenly fire is on you. Suddenly, a cold and sharp voice came from behind him, giving Chu Yang a fright. He quickly turned around, and when he saw a person, his pupils couldn't help but shrink. An extremely strange person was imprinted in his eyes, a 7-colored person. 7-colored hair, 7-colored face, 7-colored skin, and brightly colored clothes. It looked very colorful. This person's pupils were vertical, 7-colored vertical pupils. Boss, be careful. This is a 7-colored reptile. It can be considered a variant species, but its bloodline is not very pure. That's why it's so colorful when it turns into a human. Little Six reminded Chu Yang in his consciousness. 7-colored reptile. Chu Yang asked in his mind, Little Six, you're saying that this is the sky-devouring python? TSK. Little Six disdainfully said, It's just a reptile, and an incomplete one at that. However, heaven-blessed martial god boss, this reptile is not weak at all. Suddenly, the sword heart heavenly flame in Chu Yang's consciousness jumped, as if it had met its partner or an acquaintance. The blade crystal earth water is on you? The sword heart heavenly fire is indeed on you. Chu Yang and the seven-colored freak spoke almost at the same time. Damned human, how dare you steal my divine item? You deserve to die. The seven-colored strange person glared at Chu Yang with its vertical eyes. A ferocious light flickered in its eyes, filled with resentment. The seven-colored sky-devouring python has found the wrong person. To be more specific, you should thank me for killing the thief with one slash. Chu Yang narrowed his eyes. This was undoubtedly the seven-colored sky-devouring python, but why did he feel that he was not its opponent? The trial that the Azure Dragon School's leader had arranged for his precious son was so dangerous. You're all rats, what's the difference? The seven-colored sky-devouring python's true energy surged, and its seven-colored big hand instantly slapped towards Chu Yang's chest. Whoosh! That seven-colored palm suddenly caved in, and suddenly became empty. The palm power was clearly slapped forward, but the strange thing was that the air in front of it suddenly caved in, converging towards the center of its palm, forming a vacuum zone. A huge suction force was emitted, and a seven-colored whirlpool appeared behind it. Chu Yang couldn't control his body, and was swept over. The result had already appeared in his mind. It was as if there was a universe in his palm, and he was waiting for the suction force to control the enemy. Then, he would burst out the hidden power at close range, and kill the enemy in one strike. A martial art evolved from the seven-colored sky-devouring python's instinct to devour prey. This was similar to the gravity change that Chu Yang had comprehended in the coiling dragon secret realm. Chapter 128. Puff. Chu Yang groaned and spat out a mouthful of blood. He couldn't help but fall a few feet away. This seven-colored heaven-devouring python is actually so strong. Although I didn't use my full strength, I shouldn't have been injured. The seven-colored heaven-devouring python's body couldn't help but sway. Its eyes were filled with astonishment. Its original intention was to kill this human with a single palm strike. It never expected that this human would be so familiar with its divine ability. Not only did he break its attack with a single punch, but his strength was also so shocking. It was at least one elephant's strength. The quality of his Zhen Qi was also frighteningly high. It was almost comparable to its Zhen Yuan. Am I the demonic beast or is he the demonic beast? His strength is actually so shocking. What made the seven-colored heaven-devouring python even more unbelievable was that it clearly sensed that its opponent didn't use his full strength just now. The seven-colored heaven-devouring python's seven-colored face was filled with uncertainty. A faint rainbow light was actually emitted from its face. Your complexion is very good. Chu Yang's eyes flickered, but what he said was definitely the truth. To be able to see a rainbow light from a person's face was very magical. His injuries were naturally not serious. What was more troublesome was the seven-colored heaven-devouring python's Zhen Yuan that had entered his body. Fortunately, the quality of his Zhen Qi wasn't bad, so it wasn't difficult to deal with it. However, his expression immediately became strange. The seven-colored heaven-devouring python's Zhen Yuan seemed to be extremely delicious. The Zhen Qi in his body was actually crazily devouring it, causing the Zhen Qi in his body to rapidly increase. My God, the Mahamayuri scripture is simply too powerful. Chu Yang only felt that it was unbelievable. When the Qi Soul Realm Zhen Yuan entered his body, it was equivalent to swallowing a sword. It was impossible to refine it, and it was extremely difficult to expel it. However, he was actually swallowing the seven-colored heaven-devouring python's Zhen Yuan. Moreover, it was Zhen Yuan. A demonic beast's Zhen Yuan was generally more tyrannical than a normal martial artist's Zhen Yuan because it was a different species. This situation completely exceeded his knowledge of martial art. If he told others about this, they would only say that he was dreaming. No one would believe him. Hiss! The seven-colored heaven-devouring python attacked again. Immediately, numerous small green snakes rushed out from its palm. They were densely packed, and even caused people's trypophobia to break out. They surrounded Chu Yang. Great thousand-leaf hands, indistinguishable leaves. Without any hesitation, Chu Yang unleashed the Kiliacosm leaf hands, unleashing the second magic. Instantly, 50 arms appeared and slammed down. Boom, 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 boom. The shock waves produced by the exchange of blows between the two of them were like arrows shooting in all directions. The only thing that could be heard was the unceasing sounds of explosions. The towering ancient trees on both sides were actually riddled with holes by the shock waves. I can't even shatter all these little green snakes. He actually smashed the little treasure formed by the demonic essence. Both of them were horrified. Chu Yang felt like he was slapping a piece of iron when he slapped the little snakes. They were extremely hard. The seven-colored heaven-devouring python was horrified. Although the amount of demon essence used to condense these little treasures was little, the little treasures were also small. Shifting the roots and attaching the leaves, many small green snakes broke through Chu Yang's defense. Chu Yang's move changed. His arms exploded and turned into leaves. Then, a flood channel was suddenly paved by the leaves. The small green snakes were like a torrent. They were guided along the curved path and bombarded back to where they came from. What? The seven-colored heaven-devouring python was shocked. At the same time, an ominous glint appeared in his eyes, but it suddenly became gentle, as if he was being enlightened by the Buddha. Shifting the roots and attaching the leaves, Chu Yang unleashed both of the great thousand-leaf hands techniques, diverting the attacks and simultaneously affecting the seven-colored heaven-devouring python's mind. Then, Chu Yang unleashed a flurry of attacks. Indistinguishable leaves. One leaf blinds the eyes. Shifting the roots and attaching the leaves. 3 moves, 2 moves, all of them fused. Immediately, the arms and palms fell down on the seven-colored heaven-devouring python's body. For a moment, the seven-colored heaven-devouring python struggled free from the mental interference of shifting the roots and attaching the leaves. Zhen Yuan covered his entire body, but his mind was disturbed again. He couldn't distinguish between reality and illusion. His eyes seemed to be covered, and he fell into a demonic state. After the Buddha failed to enlighten him, he was unwilling to give up and tried again. What kind of technique is this? It's so strange. Chapter 129. Bang, bang, bang. However, when the violent attacks landed on its body, Chu Yang's terrifying power of the 4 divisions was instantly diverted away by the demonic aura like a torrent. Even the defense formed by the demonic clouds had the power to counterattack. Bang! The seven-colored heaven-devouring python was sent flying, coughing up 7-colored blood. However, its injuries weren't serious. Instead, its ferocious nature was completely aroused. Chu Yang was very surprised. This was the first time he had used the great thousand-leaf hands at full strength, and it actually didn't have any effect. Human, if you have any other skills, feel free to use them. I can already smell the extremely sweet fragrance of your flesh. The 7-colored heaven-devouring python grinned maliciously. It instantly closed in, perfectly demonstrating the ingenuity of the snake's footless movement. Its hands turned into 2 7-colored pythons, rolling and coiling towards Chu Yang. It was like the golden snake coiling silk hand martial technique. At the same time, a 3-meter-long 7-colored python coiled around each of its arms. It seemed to want to use its hands to coil around Chu Yang, and then form 2 pythons with Zhen Yuan to bite Chu Yang to death. Chu Yang's great thousand-leaf steps flashed again and again, but he couldn't escape the range of the 2 python hands. He could only face them head-on. A dragon's roar came from his body. Flood Dragon Claw! Flood Dragon rises from the abyss. Flood Dragon swings its tail. Flood Dragon soars the sky. The 18 Flood Dragon attacks combined with the great thousand-leaf hands were instantly used. The 18 attacks seemed to combine into one attack. Not only that, but his mind also seemed to be like a flood dragon. Ferocious, tyrannical, cold, noble, and indifferent to all life, it stared at the 7-colored heaven-devouring python. Most pythons wanted to transform into flood dragons. This kind of mental deterrence was the deterrence that higher-level life forms would have towards lower-level life forms. It was obviously very effective for pythons like the 7-colored heaven-devouring python. However, the 7-colored heaven-devouring python's body clearly paused, but that was all. With just this pause, Chu Yang's bombardment had already landed. Bang bang bang! The 2 7-colored pythons that were coiled around his arms were like pieces of rotten iron. They were bombarded by the huge force many times, and finally exploded into pieces. Every strike that fell on the bodies of these 2 pythons was like hitting a huge piece of iron. Chu Yang's hands were shaken to the point that they were in pain. At the same time, he no longer had the strength to continue attacking. He could only destroy the 2 pythons, each of which was 10 feet long. Although the demonic chi constructed by those snakes and pythons is scarce and not tough enough, the power of the 4 symbols is still not enough. The great thousand-leaf hands won't work, nor will the 18 flood dragon strikes. Whoosh! Chu Yang's thoughts raced. Seeing that his attack had failed, he immediately retreated and increased the distance between them. Kiki, human, you really are surprising. You're only at the origin martial realm, yet you can erupt with the power of the 4 symbols. You've far surpassed some Chi soul expert. I'm even beginning to suspect that you're a Yao beast. The 7-colored heaven-devouring python was happy instead of angry. This way, your flesh will definitely be even more delicious. There's also the sword heart heavenly flame and the flood dragon visualization diagram. Everything is just too wonderful. When Chu Yang used the 18 flood dragon strikes, it knew that Chu Yang definitely had the flood dragon visualization diagram. This was a fatal temptation to it. With the flood dragon visualization diagram, it would be much easier for it to transform from a snake into a flood dragon. Chu Yang was silent. The great thousand-leaf hands and the 18 flood dragon strikes had always been his trump card. Even if he used them at full strength, it was useless. He only had one thing left. The origin martial third transition. He took out little 6 unsharpened broadsword. Boom! Chapter 130. The main body of the 7-colored heaven-devouring python should be like this. The 7-colored heaven-devouring python also used its own technique. This 7-colored heaven-devouring python was much smaller than Song Hongtu's 2-winged nether snakes, but it was also much more condensed. This 7-colored heaven-devouring python's technique was clearly superior to Song Hongtu's. Hiss hiss! Especially this 7-colored heaven-devouring python formed from monster essence. It moved without wind and Song Hongtu was far inferior in terms of control. Origin martial third transformation. The pressure on Chu Yang increased greatly. He couldn't help but let out a long roar. At this moment, he didn't hold back at all. He completely unleashed the power of the origin martial third cycle. A wave of energy soared into the sky as 3 energy fields exploded around him. Shwa! With a step, the ground beneath his feet exploded and dust soared into the sky. He soared into the sky and raised his large saber above his head. Behind him, a dragon roared and an elephant roared. A flying dragon and 2 divine elephants appeared. The power of 1 dragon and 2 elephants. Is this still a human? This is simply an ancient monster. The 7-colored heaven-devouring python's 7-colored pupils shook. It was frightened by such a shocking power. Boom! The large saber fiercely chopped down on the head of the 60-foot-long seven-colored heaven-devouring python. The shockwave from the explosion created a dazzling light. After Chu Yang's large saber broke through half of the python's head, it could not go any further. "I can't cut it open." Chu Yang was shocked. "I am definitely not this seven-colored heaven-devouring python's match right now." He instantly made this judgment. The moment the seven-colored heaven-devouring python was shocked by the power of one dragon and two elephants, Chu Yang pulled out his saber and fled. He exploded with 3 times his speed and was extremely fast. When the seven-colored heaven-devouring python reacted, Chu Yang had already fled nearly 100 feet. His speed was extremely fast and could be called terrifying. The power of one dragon and 2 elephants. Such a terrifying speed. The seven-colored heaven-devouring python was shocked and terrified. Its vertical pupils almost popped out. When it calmed down a little, Chu Yang had already fled nearly 150 feet away. "Where do you think you're going?" It hurriedly chased after Shang-Chi. The 2 of them, one in front and one behind, flew forward rapidly, as fast as an eagle. Although the seven-colored heaven-devouring python could follow closely behind, to the extent that it could not see Chu Yang's figure, no matter how hard it tried, it could not catch up and close the distance. It had originally thought that Chu Yang's explosive speed must have consumed some of his source strength, and that he wouldn't be able to last for too long. However, after chasing for a while, it discovered that Chu Yang's speed didn't show any signs of slowing down. Instead, it seemed to be getting faster and faster. Is he still human? It could only give up. The disbelief in its vertical pupils became even more obvious. It was truly frightened by Chu Yang. That's not right. The reason why he sped up just now was because he was already at the end of his rope. He did it on purpose for me to see. After the seven-colored heaven-swallowing python came to its senses and gave chase, it could no longer see Chu Yang. This human must not have escaped too far. He must be hiding somewhere. I must find him. The seven-colored heaven-devouring python's vertical pupils flickered with a seven-colored light. The sword heart skyfire and the flood dragon visualization diagram were secondary. If it didn't kill this human, it would be a fatal disaster. It shuddered just thinking about it. The peak of the 8th level of the origin martial realm was already so terrifying. If he broke through to the Chi Soul realm, it would be unimaginable. It would be killed with a raise of its hand. The seven-colored heaven-devouring python had already made a decision. If it couldn't kill this human in a short period of time, it would immediately leave this place and never return. Chapter 131. Chu Yang did not know how far he had run until he could no longer maintain the third revolution. He barely managed to find a place and fell asleep after using the full martial spirit. The consumption of the third revolution was too terrifying. It was like being able to explode with the power of 12 elephants. So at this moment, Chu Yang was almost at the end of his rope. This sleep was extremely deep. When he woke up again, it was the morning of the next day. He faced the east that had just turned white and started to reflect on his gains and losses in this fight. He focused on his vital energy. Through this fight with the seven-colored heaven-swallowing python, he had a complete understanding of the power of vital energy. Vital energy is like steel. It is as hard and firm as steel. Wood rots, but steel exists. Not steel, but hard. Vital energy was condensed to be harder than steel, or even stronger than steel. So just steel was not enough to describe it. It should be hard, extremely hard. It was incomparably hard and firm. In Chu Yang's mind, he carefully replayed the feeling after that kind of fight. The feeling of his palm hitting those serpents, in addition to their hardness, seemed to have another kind of feeling. He instantly experienced another feeling from that touch. It was extremely tough and even had the ability to dodge and dodge. If one is hard, then the other is soft. Vital energy is both hard and soft. Only when it is hard and tough can it be unshakable. He started to compare the difference between the vital energy of Song Hongtu and the seven-colored heaven-swallowing python. It seemed that Song Hongtu's vital energy was only hard and not soft. Song Hongtu should have just entered the energy soul realm. The refinement of his vital energy has just started. So his vital energy is much weaker. With this comparison, Chu Yang immediately understood. He took out the unsharpened large blade. It seems that I was able to split apart the two-winged nether snakes because of this blade. If the two-winged nether snakes formed from Song Hongtu's vital energy were a large piece of metal, and Chu Yang was a giant with great strength, he would not be able to blow the large piece of metal apart with one punch. It would probably take many punches. However, the saber in his hand was like a giant hammer. If a giant swung the giant hammer, it would be able to shatter a piece of iron in an instant. However, the iron block formed by the seven-colored heaven-devouring python was different. This was because this iron block could be deformed and twisted. After being dented, it could recover. No wonder body cultivation has been completely abandoned. Compared to the cultivation of Zhen Yuan, the path of body cultivation is not only a dead end, but also not very effective. The strength of one dragon and two elephants was just that. Chu Yang thought about it a little more. If he used his true essence to construct things like mountains, exploding bears, and barbarian elephants, he would be able to crush a body cultivator in the Chi Soul realm. There were too many drawbacks. How could a body cultivator not give up on such a cultivation method? With the eruption of my third transition, I can at most kill an ordinary Chi Soul stage cultivator. There is absolutely no hope for a second layer 2 elements origin stage cultivator. Chu Yang began to think about how he could defeat the seven-colored heaven-devouring python. The difference between him and the seven-colored heaven-devouring python was not that great. This little bit of difference did not seem to be great, but if he were to take a step forward, he would definitely not be a match for the seven-colored heaven-devouring python. What should I do? After thinking for a while, he still could not find a way. Boss of the heaven-blessed martial arts sect, if you had used the power of fire, metal, and earth, you should have been able to blow the seven-colored heaven-devouring python apart. When Xiao Lu spoke, Chu Yang was abruptly stunned. Yes, I did not use all the power in my body. I completely gathered it and struck at one point. However, Xiao Lu feels that it might still be a little lacking. I suggest that the omnipotent boss refine your body. What's the use of that? Chu Yang said. It's not like the increase will be too great. Chapter 132. Chu Yang was stunned again. That's right. Let's do it. At that moment, Chu Yang used the genius martial spirit and the fool martial spirit to break his bones, break his acupoints, and break his meridians. He started the second round of body forging. Once again, he entered that wonderful state like a stone and a tree. This time, it only took 3 days for Chu Yang to wake up from a dream. At this time, the whole world fell into his eyes, and he found that the world in his eyes was different again. Without deliberately sensing, he found a leaf with a withered yellow tip. On the back of the leaf, there were many insect eggs that were too small to be seen by the naked eye. On a lush tree, there were a few insects gnawing on the trunk, crawling, and spitting out white powder. Not far away, there was a black pebble that looked like a tortoise beside a pool. At this moment, the heavens seemed to have removed the leaf that was blocking Chu Yang's vision. He seemed to have seen the heavens, the earth, and all living beings. When he looked at the tree, he felt that the tree was him. When he looked at the rock, he felt that the rock was him. It was as if his body no longer existed. It was a wonderful feeling. His thoroughly meticulous state had improved, and his sense of touch had become more sensitive. When he looked at his own body, he could almost see every part of his body, and even the tiny wounds on his capillaries were as clear as fire. With this look, Chu Yang immediately found that the body that he thought was almost perfect was not as perfect as he thought. There were many hidden diseases. Some of the hidden diseases were small blood clots left after injuries, some were hidden dangers caused by forced exertion during fierce battles, some were problems of the body itself, and some were damage to the skin and tendons caused by exposure to the sun and wind, causing the skin pores to be blocked and the skin to be dull and dull. In the past, he could not detect these hidden diseases, but now, his sense of touch was much sharper, and these undetectable hidden diseases were revealed. The dike of 1,000 miles collapsed because of an ant's hole. These hidden diseases seemed insignificant, and caused very little damage to the body, but in the long run, they would limit the progress of his cultivation and reduce his lifespan. But now, since he could see these hidden diseases, he could naturally eliminate them, and his body would always be in a perfect and flawless state. Now, he already knew that the so-called perfection was only relative. When his cultivation level increased, he would definitely discover new flaws and hidden ailments. The true energy in Chu Yang's body immediately began to circulating over and over again, impacting every corner of his body, especially those places with hidden dangers. Such a process was even more difficult and troublesome than raising his cultivation base and breaking through to the next realm. Raising one's cultivation base only required him to cultivate, but eliminating the hidden ailments in his body required him to focus all of his attention on finding and repairing every single hidden ailment. After an unknown period of time, Chu Yang finally opened his eyes, stood up, and slowly exhaled a mouthful of foul air, lowered his head to size up his entire body, and frowned slightly. At this moment, his entire body was covered in a thick layer of filth. It was like the dust that had fallen from the years and stuck to his body, making him feel extremely uncomfortable. He jumped into the pool, washed his body clean, and put on his clothes again. Immediately, he felt extremely refreshed and comfortable. Looking at his body again, his skin was as white and delicate as a baby's, perfect and flawless. At first glance, he seemed to be much weaker than before, but in his body, there was a hidden power that was more powerful than before. It could be said that when he moved, it was earth-shattering. In particular, every time he breathed, it seemed that all the pores in his body were breathing, expelling the old and taking in the new, inhaling the essence in the air, and expelling the foul air and impurities. Whoosh! Chu Yang suddenly punched forward, and the true energy swarmed into his arm and palm. Suddenly, the air burst out with a thunderous sound. The speed of the true energy circulation was 20% faster than before, and the movement was almost at his will, almost without thinking, as if it had become the instinct of the body. The speed of the movement was so fast that even he was surprised. This meant that his movement speed was faster, and the power of the movement was stronger. Although his cultivation base didn't increase much, his strength had made great progress. Not bad. Chapter 133. Bang! The genuine chi of fire property moved. When it rose from Chu Yang's palm, there was only a very faint sound. Moreover, the flame in his palm was extremely gentle. What's going on? After the second round of body forging, the genuine chi of fire property didn't become stronger. Instead, it became weaker. No. Chu Yang suddenly had an extremely strange feeling. It was as if the gentle flame in his palm was a sun. When his mind entered this flame, he even felt that his whole body was a big sun. What a strange feeling! This feeling made him extremely confused. It was as if he had faintly grasped something, but when he really tried to grasp it, he couldn't grasp anything. What exactly is this feeling? Chu Yang frowned. Immediately, he tried the genuine chi of metal property. When the genuine chi of metal property moved, he only felt that it sank into the ground along with the genuine chi of metal property. It became a metal mine buried deep in the ground, becoming countless mineral veins. It's like this again. What exactly is this feeling? He really couldn't figure it out. However, that strange feeling became clearer and clearer. It was as if he could touch it at any time. Immediately, he tried the genuine chi of earth property. That feeling came again. He seemed to be completely connected with the earth under his feet. It was as if he was the earth and the earth was him. When he looked at the nearby mountain, he also felt that the mountain was him and he was the mountain. What the hell is this feeling? Chu Yang's brows furrowed. It seemed that he could clearly see through it, but in the end it was still so hazy that he couldn't see clearly or understand it. Boss of heaven-blessed martial arts, this is force. Momentum. Little Six opened his mouth. The word power struck down in his mind like a sudden clap of thunder, and destroyed all the confusion in his mind. Chu Yang suddenly saw the light. It was as if he had woken up from a dream. He thoroughly understood and saw through everything. Little Six, you're talking about the oneness of heaven and men, right? The omnipotent Big Brother is mighty. Unity of heaven and man. So it's the unity of heaven and man. No wonder I had such a wonderful feeling. But if Little Sixth didn't mention it, I really wouldn't have noticed it. Chu Yang's mind had already started to work at lightning speed. What is the so-called momentum? The right time, the right place, and the right people are momentum. This was the simplest explanation, but it was also the most intuitive one. In a war between husband and wife, the right time is not as good as the right place, and the right place is not as good as the right people. 3 li of city, 7 li of country, encircling and attacking without success. Attacking from all sides, there is bound to be an opportune moment. However, those who do not win are those who do not have the advantage of geographical advantage. It's not that the city walls are not high, the pond is not deep, the military revolution is not firm and beneficial, rice grains are not plentiful. The reason is that the geographical location is not as good as the people. In ancient times, military strategies were all based on the right time, the right place, and the right people. The right time, the right place, and the right people were naturally momentum. The timing was the weather and the momentum of the heavens. With the weather at the time, the operation would naturally be smoother and easier to succeed. The right place was naturally the right place. With the right place, the result would be twice the result with half the effort. The right people were naturally the people's hearts and the momentum of the people. Chu Yang was not clear about other things, but the effect of groups was very clear. If a person in front of a cow said it was a horse, and many people behind said it was a horse, under the pressure of the group, even if the people behind knew it was a cow, they might take a great risk and correct the wrong statement. Chu Yang had a preliminary understanding of force. He flew out and observed the surroundings. He looked at the terrain of this place, and had an idea of how to deal with the 7-colored heaven-swallowing python. He was very happy in his heart, and couldn't help but let out a long shout. The howl was continuous and spread in all directions. This 7-colored heaven-devouring python should be able to figure it out immediately. Chapter 134. In order to search for Chu Yang, the 7-colored heaven-devouring python was more than just crazy. It had used all sorts of methods, but none of the snakes it had sent out were able to find Chu Yang. This shocked it. Then, it thought of a possibility. Chu Yang had the flood dragon visualization on his body. Snakes were afraid of such an aura, so they would subconsciously avoid him. As a result, it was natural that it would not be able to find Chu Yang. However, it had discovered it too late. 3 days had already passed, and gradually, by relying on the direction the snakes had deliberately split open, it had already slowly narrowed down the range. At this moment, when the 7-colored heaven-devouring python heard Chu Yang's roar, it immediately determined that it was Chu Yang and hurriedly flew over. In the forest, the 7-colored heaven-devouring python's 7-colored face was gloomy. It jumped as if it was flying, quickly approaching Chu Yang. Its demon essence was blazing like fire. In the past few days, it had been searching everywhere for traces of Chu Yang, but it had been unable to find him. It did not expect Chu Yang to suddenly appear today with a soaring aura. This was clearly a challenge to it. A mere origin martial realm cultivator had previously fled like a mouse. Now, he had eaten a bear's heart and leopard's guts, daring to provoke it again. The seven-colored heaven-devouring python was afraid that Chu Yang would escape, so its footsteps were extremely fast. The aura of the Chi Soul stage was completely released. With every step, its aura climbed a level. As it sprinted, its aura also climbed steadily. When its speed reached its limit, the demon essence formed a terrifying force field around it. The seven-colored demon essence turned into a large python that coiled around its body, crushing the branches and leaves that brushed against it. It was accumulating its aura. When it reached Chu Yang's location, it would be able to accumulate its aura to its peak. With a strike of thunder, it would kill Chu Yang in one fell swoop. If Chu Yang discovered it, he would immediately know that the seven-colored heaven-devouring python was indeed extraordinary. It actually knew how to use aura. The seven-colored heaven-devouring python's aura finally reached its peak. It rushed to the side of the pool where Chu Yang was originally at. Looking around, it didn't find any trace of Chu Yang. It couldn't help but become furious. His momentum had been accumulated to the peak, but there was no target. It was as if the huge force of 10,000 pounds had hit empty air, making him so upset that he almost vomited blood. Is this human toying with me? The seven-colored heaven-devouring python's aura quickly fell. At this moment, an extremely relaxed laugh came from a small mountain. You're looking for me. I'm here. It hurriedly looked up and saw a handsome young man looking down at it from above. His clothes were fluttering in the wind. Suddenly, the seven-colored face became even more gloomy. Are you deliberately provoking me? The seven-colored heaven-devouring python naturally knew how terrifying Chu Yang was. Especially after the battle a few days ago, its impression of Chu Yang could be said to be deeply ingrained into its bones. It was difficult to erase it. The power of one dragon and two elephants was terrifying. At this moment, only a few days had passed. Seeing Chu Yang again, it felt that Chu Yang seemed to be even more dangerous than a few days ago. This was its instinctive intuition. Although Chu Yang's cultivation level hadn't changed, his aura was different. Such a change made it feel extreme danger. Aura! Instantly, the seven-colored heaven-devouring python understood what kind of aura it felt from Chu Yang's body was. The first burst of energy, the second decline, and the third exhaustion. First, it deliberately let out a long hiss to attract it. When it discovered that its aura had reached its peak, it immediately hid. When its aura fell to its peak, it immediately appeared again. What a terrifying human! A mere origin martial realm cultivator has actually comprehended aura. Chapter 135. In just 3 days you've comprehended force? Even now it was still in disbelief. It could be said to be simple, but it could also be said to be profound. However, it was definitely not easy to comprehend. It required luck and inspiration. It seemed useless, but it was very useful. At this moment, the seven-colored heaven-devouring python's force was slowly descending, while Chu Yang's force had yet to condense. In other words, Chu Yang had grasped force while it had lost it. It was at a complete disadvantage. Without comprehending force, it did not understand how powerful it was. It thought it was just looking down from above. However, it was not that simple. It was just that it could not be explained. It could be said that before the two of them even clashed, it had already lost. If Chu Yang was also in the Chi Soul realm, the seven-colored heaven-devouring python would not dare to fight with Chu Yang. It would run away, or it would only end up being defeated. The seven-colored heaven-devouring python calmed down and stared at Chu Yang with its seven-colored vertical pupils. With a voice as cold as ice, it said, "Human, if you were at the Chi Soul realm, I would definitely die if I fought with you. However, the gap between us is too big. It seems like you don't understand the gap between the Chi Soul realm and the Origin Martial realm." Its seven-colored eyebrows stood up and it shouted, "Human, if I can't kill you today, I will definitely become a ghost under your hands tomorrow. So, you only have one ending, death." Seven-colored heaven-devouring python, you are too confident. Today, I will take the blade crystal earth water. Chu Yang roared. Like a huge rock, he began to roll down from the top of the mountain. With just his first step, there was a huge sound and dust filled the air. Afterwards, his speed became faster and faster, and his force became louder and louder. It really was like a huge rock rolling down the mountain. With every step, there was a huge sound. This was force. If it was before the huge rock rolled down from the top of the mountain, it would be easy to stop it. However, now that it was rolling down, it was impossible to stop it. Anything that tried to stop it would be knocked away and crushed. Rumble. At first, Chu Yang used the profound of weight and weight to increase the gravity on his body. When he swooped down, his aura increased again and again. Then, he used the third transformation of the Origin martial art. His aura increased again and almost reached the peak in an instant. During this time, he also used his shallow understanding of the wind-chasing life-taking sword, bringing out a gust of wild wind. Then, with the momentum accumulated to its peak, he attacked the seven-colored heaven-devouring python with an unstoppable momentum. The great Kiliacosm Leaf Hands was a perfect fusion of the two fighting styles. 50 arms appeared, and layers upon layers of palms struck out in succession. True energy crashed down on the seven-colored heaven-devouring python with mountain-toppling and sea-draining force. The expression of the seven-colored heaven-swallowing python changed. It immediately let out a cold snort as a seven-colored demonic essence appeared around its body. Immediately, a 90-feet-long seven-colored heaven-swallowing python, formed by the demonic essence, appeared. It shook its head and wagged its tail as it hissed and extended its tongue in an extremely ferocious manner. Its vertical pupils were filled with malice and killing intent. Facing Chu Yang's aura, the true form of the seven-colored heaven-swallowing python was 30 feet longer than before. It was also much bigger. It wanted to use its large size to resist the eruption of Chu Yang's aura. However, in this way, the seven-colored heaven-swallowing python's body became bigger, but it was not as condensed as before. Human, you are indeed very shocking. But let me tell you, so what if you have the aura? The gap between our realms is too big. Killing you is as easy as killing a fat rat. Is that so? With a clang, Chu Yang's 50 arms suddenly changed and combined into one arm. It raised the unsharpened broadsword. Damn it! The seven-colored heaven-swallowing python was shocked. It saw that Chu Yang's palm technique was not the same as before. The broadsword had almost cut through its demonic essence, so the seven-colored heaven-swallowing python was enlarged. Chapter 136. Schwa. The arm raised the saber above its head and slashed downwards. It was as if a crescent moon had appeared. The saber beam slashed down on the head of the seven-colored heaven-devouring python. It cut in half before exploding, widening the wound and loosening the primordial essence. Immediately after, the saber slashed down, following the crescent moon trajectory. The saber slashed down and the huge snake head was instantly split in half. How is this possible? This was the appearance of its main body that it had constructed with its primordial essence. It was its strongest primordial essence skill. Although it had expected that it would be split in half, when it really was split in half, it was still unable to accept it. Boom! The snake's head was split open, and the real elemental energy inside exploded, forming a huge storm. However, Chu Yang had already rushed out of it, and chopped down on the seven-colored heaven-devouring python again and again. Hiss! The seven-colored heaven-devouring python transformed back into its main body. The snake head opened its mouth and immediately spat out countless small snakes, forming a huge wave that rushed forward. With muffled popping sounds, the small snakes were either split in half or sent flying by the terrifying saber energy. Dang! Immediately after, Chu Yang's saber slashed down on the seven-colored heaven-devouring python's huge snake head, creating a loud sound. The snake head seemed to be a huge piece of metal. In addition, it was wrapped in a thick layer of primordial essence. It was hard and tough. After breaking through the primordial essence, Chu Yang only managed to cut through the skin of the snake head. The seven-colored heaven-devouring python was not in a good state. It felt an unimaginable force slam into its head, like a huge rock falling down. The huge snake body twisted and quickly retreated. Where do you think you're going? Chu Yang had been accumulating power for a long time. His aura had reached its peak. In addition to the terrifying power of the Origin Martial Third Transformation, he had finally broken through all obstructions and slashed at the seven-colored heaven-devouring python's main body. How could he give up? At this moment, his power was not over yet. The seven-colored heaven-devouring python retreated again and again, not daring to take it head-on. But how could this go as it wished? Chu Yang roared angrily and quickly chased after him. With Dali in hand, his strength increased again. Each strike was faster than the previous one, and each strike was heavier than the previous one. The black threads were blown straight by the strong wind. He hadn't used up all his power yet, so he started to accumulate power again. The seven-colored heaven-devouring python was so scared that its gallbladder almost ruptured. It didn't dare to dodge anymore and could only face the attack head-on. Its huge snake head was wrapped in thick demonic chi. It tried its best to avoid the blade and fiercely bit at it. Bang bang bang! The seven-colored heaven-devouring python was still struck countless times. Even though it was protected by a thick layer of demonic chi, its head was already badly mutilated. Its skull was already exposed, and the seven-colored white skull glowed with a beautiful light. It was both shocked and angry. He wanted to kill Chu Yang and eliminate all future troubles. He also wanted to take back the Sword Heart Heavenly Fire and obtain the Jiao Dragon visualization diagram. However, he never expected that after just a few days, he would be completely at a disadvantage when facing Chu Yang again. This result was simply unbearable to him. However, the power of one dragon and two elephants combined with Shur was indeed too terrifying. However, the price he paid was not in vain. Suddenly, the seven-colored heaven-devouring python felt that the aura of Shur on Chu Yang's body had completely disappeared. It couldn't help but be overjoyed. Its head was ferocious as it spoke in human language. "Human, I thought you could continue to erupt endlessly. Now your power is exhausted, right? Go to hell, rat." The seven-colored heaven-devouring python pounced and bit at Chu Yang. "Is that so?" With a whoosh, Chu Yang stepped on the ground and the ground under his feet cracked. He soared into the sky. Immediately, an even more vigorous and powerful aura burst out from his body. It seemed to make the seven-colored heaven-devouring python even more fearful than before. Pung! A flame appeared on the broadsword. The flame was raging, and immediately, a golden light burst out from it. The golden light seemed to be bursting out from the body of a giant. Chapter 137. Since there was no way to dodge, he could only fight to the death. The seven-colored heaven-swallowing python's ferocious nature erupted. It no longer had any intention of dodging Chu Yang. Its huge snake head bit at Chu Yang. "Either you die or I die." Chu Yang had no way to retreat. At this moment, it was a competition of aura. Whoever had the weaker aura would die. Die! Xiao Qin roared furiously as he chopped down with the saber in his hand. It felt like he was chopping through iron and stone. After he had exhausted most of his strength, he chopped into wood. The demonic chi was even harder than the snake's head. The saber broke through the demonic chi and chopped into 1/6 of the snake's head. The seven-colored heaven-swallowing python cried out in pain. However, Chu Yang's aura was even stronger. He chopped down with his saber again. The flames and the golden light were even more dazzling. The giant that appeared on the saber was even clearer. Boom! 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 One saber strike after another. The seven-colored heaven-swallowing python was frightened out of its wits. It no longer dared to fight head-on. However, it lost even faster. Huge wounds appeared on the huge snake's body. Its tail was even chopped off, and snake blood splattered everywhere. In the end, it could no longer resist. Chu Yang chopped the snake's head in half. It couldn't be more dead. Huff, huff, huff. Chu Yang panted like an ox. His chest was like a bellows. He had used all his strength in this battle and finally killed the seven-colored heaven-swallowing python. After he recovered a little, he immediately found the saber crystal earth water on the seven-colored heaven-swallowing python's body. It was a drop of water. It was no different from an ordinary water drop. However, in the center of the water drop was a crystal. The crystal was in the shape of a saber, just like the saber in Chu Yang's hand. However, it was countless times smaller. It emitted a surging cold chi. In an instant, frost appeared in the air, and even ice formed. This is the saber crystal earth water. As its name suggests, it has the same structure as the sword heart heavenly flame. Xiao. Before Chu Yang could do anything, the full martial soul in his consciousness took the initiative for the first time. With a beckon, the blade crystal earth water entered Chu Yang's body. Chu Yang only felt a chill between his eyebrows. Immediately, the blade crystal earth water appeared in the hand of the idiot martial spirit. It shone together with the sword heart heavenly flame in the hand of the genius martial spirit. It was like the sun and the moon. At the same time, a comfortable feeling came from his spirit. It was as if he had obsessive-compulsive disorder. That's right, the genius martial spirit and the idiot martial spirit were originally equal and balanced, but after the sword heart heavenly flame fell into the hands of the genius martial spirit, they lost their balance. The idiot martial spirit was supported by the sword martial spirit, but it was still not as strong as the blade crystal earth water. Water against fire, this was the most suitable. The idiot martial spirit had done it instinctively, but as soon as the idiot martial spirit had completed its new perfect state, the genius martial spirit wanted to compete with the idiot martial spirit. With a wave of its hand, the sword spirit fell into the hands of the genius martial spirit. The perfect balance was broken again, and little six could only fall into the hands of the idiot martial spirit. The flood dragon martial spirit didn't move, forming a dragon-shaped curve between the two. What a headache! The two big shots of the Destiny twins were about to fight. Chu Yang didn't know what to do. He could only place his hopes on the coiling dragon fruit. I hope my guess is not wrong. The azure dragon pellet was refined with the coiling dragon fruit as the main ingredient. The blade martial spirit was the most suitable at the moment, but Chu Yang didn't have the blade martial spirit's visualization diagram and cultivation method. Last time, when the flood dragon martial spirit was formed, the 18 flood dragon strikes had at least 20% effect. The azure dragon pellet had at most 30% effect. Although the genius martial spirit and the idiot martial spirit didn't seem to have any reaction, but after thinking about it, the contribution of the two was the most. The Zhao clan and the Azure Dragon School had the Azure Dragon pellet and all kinds of cultivation methods, but this was the reason why they didn't form a martial spirit. Chapter 138. Let's take the treasures from the seven-colored heaven-devouring python first. The seven-colored heaven-devouring python was a demonic beast at the Chi Soul realm. Every part of its body was a treasure, but Chu Yang was only interested in its beast core and blood essence. With the beast core and blood essence of the seven-colored heaven-devouring python, even if he didn't have the visualization diagram of the seven-colored heaven-devouring python, he could still use them to construct the seven-colored heaven-devouring python and obtain the visualization diagram. The beast core was the best, followed by the blood essence. Chu Yang took the beast core of the seven-colored heaven-devouring python, refined the blood essence, and left in a flash. He found an excellent place to rest and recover. After that, he began to try to form the saber martial spirit, so that the genius martial spirit and the idiot martial spirit could reach the perfect balance. He didn't have much confidence, but it wasn't impossible. There were two key factors: the genius martial spirit and the idiot martial spirit, and the coiling dragon fruit. I hope my guess is correct. Soon, Chu Yang ate the coiling dragon fruit. After a short while, he suddenly saw a sleeping dragon in his consciousness. That dragon seemed to be his body. His consciousness was sucked into the dragon's body as if his spirit had returned to his body. Then, he completely lost consciousness. When he woke up again, the first thing Chu Yang noticed was the martial spirit. He was instantly stunned. At this moment, Xiao Lu was also thrown away. The genius martial spirit was the sword heart heavenly flame and the sword martial spirit, while the idiot martial spirit was the saber crystal earth water and the saber martial spirit. The sword heart heavenly flame against the saber crystal earth water, the sword martial spirit against the saber martial spirit. It was like yin and yang were opposing each other, but yin and yang were embracing each other, forming a perfect balance. The two were like the sun and the moon, making his consciousness seem to have time and space, as well as day and night. Sleeping like this, the saber martial spirit is formed. Chu Yang felt like Zhu Beiji eating a ginseng fruit. He didn't feel anything at all. This was very magical, and the genius martial spirit and the idiot martial spirit formed a perfect balance. Such a comfortable feeling swept through his body. Haha, my guess was not wrong. The azure dragon pellet and the coiling dragon fruit have a huge connection. Moreover, this coiling dragon fruit is indeed miraculous. No wonder the Zhao family and the Azure Dragon School did not hesitate to take such a huge risk to seize it. After Chu Yang calmed down, he could not help but be taken aback when he sensed his body again. His will seemed to have turned into swords and sabers, lotus flowers, spirit pearls, treasure bottles, and even the shape of a lion or light. His flesh, blood, veins, bones, and internal organs seemed to be made of thin, thread-like blades and swords. Every inch of his skin was filled with the aura of blades and swords. Heart of blade and sword. Body of sword and saber. Chu Yang instantly understood the part of the sword and blade, but what about the lotus, spirit bead and treasure bottle? Then his divine body shook. The ninth wisdom king Dharma idol had already formed in his dantian, the peak of the ninth level of the primitive martial realm. After swallowing the coiling dragon fruit, he directly rose from the eighth level of the primitive martial realm to the peak of the ninth level of the primitive martial realm. Naturally, this was not the most surprising thing for him. The most surprising thing was the change of the wisdom king Dharma idol. On the five-colored lotus platform, there was a golden Buddha sitting cross-legged, beside him was a peacock, and behind his head were five-colored divine rings. In addition to the appearance of the peacock, the biggest change was that the Wisdom King Dharma idol no longer had 3 faces and 6 arms, but 3 faces and 8 arms. There were already 5 seals in its palms that were extremely clear. One was a lotus, one was a spirit bead, one was a treasure bottle, one was a lion seal, and one was a light seal. The lotus, spirit bead, treasure bottle, lion and light in my consciousness represent these 5 seals? Chu Yang completely understood. The deduction of the Mahamayuri scripture had advanced a step. At this moment, the brand new Zhen Qi was following a more complex and mysterious path, but looking at it as a whole, it was incomparably simple. The quality of his true Qi had increased by another level. If his true Qi could be said to be comparable to true origin before, then his true Qi was definitely on par with Song Hongtu's true origin now. Lotus Seal. Spirit Pearl Seal. Treasure Bottle Seal. Chapter 139. Saber Martial Spirit. Saber and Sword Body. 9th level of Primitive Martial Realm. There was also Zhen Qi comparable to Zhen Qi, the new Mahamayuri Sutra, the seal technique for cultivating spirit, haha. The progress was too amazing, the gains were too much. Chu Yang could not help but laugh loudly. This could be said to be another transformation for him. Little Six, who was sitting cross-legged in the middle of Chu Yang, was awakened by him. His monkey mouth was straight, his small eyes were full of disdain, as if to say, "You haven't seen much, you haven't seen the most amazing thing." Little Six seemed to have gained a lot, closed his eyes again. Suddenly his whole body was shining with golden light. "Let's test the strength." Boom! Chu Yang punched out with all his strength. 8 divine elephant phantoms appeared behind him, hit the ground, a huge cloud of dust rose into the sky. The power of 8 elephants, the power of 8 elephants! He quickly rushed out, his face was full of shock. "I actually increased the power of 4 elephants, what happened when I entered deep sleep? I actually increased such a terrifying power. If so, it seems that it is not impossible for me to walk the path of body cultivation." Immediately, Chu Yang took out the Book of Overlord Fist from Song Hongtu. His eyes could not help but stare. Devouring monster cores to temper the body. Chu Yang was scared out of his wits. Swallowing a monster core was extremely dangerous. Most of the people who swallowed a monster core would be demonized. If the monster core was extremely powerful, it could even completely demonize the person. And if there were still remnants of the monster core's spiritual consciousness, the monster core could even take over the person's body. This was the most important thing. The monster core was always the condensation of the monster's essence. If it conflicted with the Zhen Qi in the body, it was very easy for it to be like fire meeting oil, burning the person to death, or even directly exploding the person into pieces. In addition to these, there were many disadvantages, but the cultivation method of Overlord Fist was actually such a dangerous method, devouring monster cores. Damn your grandpa, body cultivation is really a dead end, this is too crazy. Maybe, this is just an extreme method of tempering the body, not a moderate method of body cultivation. In any case, the cultivation of Overlord Fist was very dangerous, but the moves were very domineering. Overlord Cauldron Lifting. Swallowing mountains and rivers. Strength pulling mountains. Sovereign overlooking the world. Overlord suppressing the sea. The Overlord's fist was also incomplete. It only had these 5 forms, but each form was fierce and overbearing. It was as if any one of these forms could cause the sky to turn dark, the sun, the moon, and the stars to fall, and the heaven and earth to collapse. This was extremely good, extremely cool, and extremely cool. But thinking of the cultivation method, Chu Yang still felt his scalp go numb. Even if he was demonized by devouring the demonic primordial energy, it didn't matter. He could use this opportunity to temper his whole body and refine the heterogeneous demonic primordial energy, and then return to his human form. It could be said that the Overlord's fist was an overlord, and that heaven and earth were his domain. He wanted to devour all of the vital energy of heaven and earth in one gulp, and control all of the heterogeneous true energy. Anyone who refused to submit would be beaten into submission. It was truly domineering. However, Chu Yang ultimately felt that he was not an overlord. If he ate the Yao core in one mouthful and turned into a demon, he wouldn't even have a place to cry. Forget it, I will walk the proper path first. I will not seek death for the time being. Chu Yang threw Overlord Fist aside, and began to temper his body with Sword Heart Heavenly Flame and Blade Crystal Earth Water. After swallowing elixirs or coiling dragon fruits, there would be impurities in his body, so he would always temper his body afterwards. However, this time was different. Not only was he going to temper his body with fire, but also with water. The water and fire were like dragons and tigers. He had to be careful during his first tempering. The genius martial spirit and the fool martial spirit will definitely be able to subdue the dragons and tigers of water and fire. After all, the two have formed a perfect balance. With the Destiny Twins martial spirit, Chu Yang was not very careful, but he was very cautious. He carefully separated two strands of his consciousness, separately triggering Sword Heart Heavenly Flame and Blade Crystal Earth Water. Immediately, water and fire came together, rushing down from top to bottom, rushing through his body. Suddenly, Chu Yang let out a groan. A fishy smell rushed up from his throat. The water and fire elemental forces collided with each other in his body, and every time they collided, there would be an explosion, causing him to be seriously injured in an instant. Not good. Chapter 140. Chu Yang hurriedly weakened the power of fire, and after many adjustments, he finally managed to balance the fire and water, and no longer caused an explosion. The yin and yang of water and fire are called dragon and tiger, and it is indeed not wrong at all. These two strange powers mutually restrain each other, and if I am not careful, it will result in a fierce battle between a dragon and a tiger, and the consequences will be very serious. However, if I can combine fire and water, yin and yang together, I can achieve an unparalleled effect. Fortunately, I have the genius martial spirit and the fool martial spirit to subdue this dragon and tiger. If I didn't, I would have lost half of my life even if I didn't die. Chu Yang's forehead was full of cold sweat, and he was really scared just now. Under the effect of the two martial spirits, the power of water and the power of fire no longer clashed violently, and gradually merged in his body, and they were like the sun and moon, shining on his body, tempering and washing his flesh, meridians, bones, true qi, and even his spirit. In an instant, Chu Yang clearly felt that some of the impurities in his body that were not refined by the Sword Heart Heavenly Fire were directly washed away by the Blade Crystal's water, washing away the impurities. His true qi, spirit, and so on, seemed to have been cleansed and tempered in an instant, becoming more tenacious, and even blooming with a new light. No wonder the Azure Dragon School's sovereign said that the tempering of fire and water is the best way to refine the body and refine pills. This is true. Chu Yang was surprised and happy, and he felt that in an instant, the impurities formed by swallowing the coiling dragon fruit were washed away and expelled from his body. And the impurities in his body were still being washed and tempered, over and over again. After the tempering of the divine fire, the tempering of the divine water, the tempering of the divine fire, the tempering of the divine water, and the cleansing of the divine water, the combination of fire and water, the effect was much better than just one. Chu Yang let out a long breath of turbid air. After the tempering of fire and water, he no longer needed to control them, and let them freely cleanse him. The incomparably pure water and fire elemental forces mixed and intertwined, and continuously poured into his muscles, veins, blood vessels, bones, and bone marrow through his skin, over and over again, and over 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 again. He felt an incomparable burning in his heart. However, what surprised him was that of the 9 Wisdom King Dharma appearances in his dantian, one of them disappeared after being tempered, and his cultivation level dropped. And this situation was still continuing. At the same time, the strength that had skyrocketed to the level of 8 elephants was also rapidly falling. 7 elephants, 6 elephants, 5 elephants, and even surpassed the original level of 4 elephants, directly falling to the level of 3 elephants. His cultivation and strength did not increase at all. Instead, they were shrinking at an alarming rate. Chu Yang was startled. He carefully examined himself, but was shocked to find that while the water and fire were scouring his body and spirit, they were also scouring away his cultivation and other things. They were washing away all the impurities in his cultivation. Therefore, this strange phenomenon of his cultivation and strength not only not increasing, but also decreasing at an extremely fast speed. Such benefits were astonishing, and it was also extremely beneficial to Chu Yang's strength. The impurities in his body that could not be removed were refined, and the impurities in his cultivation base were also washed away. Even his spirit and consciousness were baptized and refined. As a result, his cultivation base was incomparably firm, and no one could shake it. After an unknown period of time, Chu Yang's cultivation base no longer declined. It directly fell to the peak of the 7th level of the origin martial realm, and his strength even fell to the level of 2.5 elephants. The cultivation base and strength that I worked so hard for has actually been washed away by so much. I can be considered amazing. These words were not wrong. It was really difficult for others to lower their cultivation base. Naturally, Chu Yang was only happy. The decline of his cultivation base and strength made him feel even more powerful. His spirit was more active, his reaction, agility, and perception were faster and faster. It was as if after the elite soldiers of an army were reduced, only the elite soldiers and strong generals were left. Especially his true qi, which was close to the true essence of the first level of the qi soul realm. After being tempered by water and fire, it seemed to be both hard and soft. The cultivation base and strength that have fallen, I should be able to recover very quickly. In this aspect, Chu Yang could be considered to be experienced. Just as he wanted to feel his own strength, he suddenly heard the strange laughter of a few men not far away. "Little beauty, don't run away. Accompany us, brothers, and have some fun. I guarantee that you'll feel like you're in heaven and will never forget it. The hero saving the beauty is finally here. I really haven't done this before." Chu Yang laughed. "I hope it's a super beauty. It's best if she gives her heart to me, hee. Chapter 141. Chu Yang's figure was like an eagle. His speed was very fast. He only flew a few times, and everything fell into his eyes in an instant. But those few people, especially that pale-faced woman who was gasping for breath, fell into his eyes. His pupils shrank when he saw her. Zhao Clan's people? Wang Xiaoman. Chu Yang recognized Wang Xiaoman. She and Chu Na weren't inferior to men and were the 2 elite disciples of the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution. Many male disciples were ashamed of their inferiority. At this moment, Wang Xiaoman's chest was moving up and down as she panted. Her aura was at its limit and her body was dyed in blood. She was severely injured. She was already surrounded by 5 to 6 Zhao Clan's people and had blocked off all her escape routes. "Wang Xiaoman, run. Run again. If it wasn't for your good looks, you would already be a dead man." The elite female disciple of the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution must have a great taste. Hearing your ecstasy from below, I reckon that it wasn't just ecstasy, but also a special pleasure of conquering the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution. Perhaps we brothers are about to ascend to heaven. Haha. 5 to 6 Zhao Clan's disciples were all staring at Wang Xiaoman's alluring buttocks. They were all teasing her and were even anxious. Everyone seemed to want to immediately take off their pants. Don't even think about it. Just as Wang Xiaoman was about to commit suicide, a loud hissing sound suddenly rang out, and a 10-feet-long 7-colored python rushed out in an instant. Its huge snake mouth bit a Zhao family disciple to death in an instant, and with a swing of its tail, another person was whipped to death. Where did this demonic beast come from? Soon after, the remaining Zhao clan's disciples reacted and recognized that this was a Qi Soul Realm's true essence skill. They spoke out in fear. "Senior, we are Zhao clan's disciples and have a grudge with the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution. We hope Senior can understand." "What if I don't understand?" Chu Yang sneered and took a big step forward. He instantly appeared in front of Wang Xiaoman. "Chu Yang, Junior Brother Chu." Be it the Zhao clan's disciples or Wang Xiaoman, they couldn't help but exclaim, "Junior Brother Chu, you've stepped into the Qi Soul Realm." Wang Xiaoman's voice suddenly stopped, because she discovered that not only did Chu Yang not step into the Qi Soul Realm, his cultivation was actually lower than before, and was actually only at the 7th level of the primitive martial realm. "I was wondering who it was." "So it's you, you bastard. You're only at the 7th level of the primitive martial realm, yet you dare to be so presumptuous. We were worried that we wouldn't be able to find you. I didn't expect you to deliver yourself to us." When the Zhao clan disciples discovered Chu Yang's true cultivation, their courage was immediately boosted, and then they began to ridicule endlessly, completely not placing Chu Yang in their eyes. Of course, Chu Yang did not put them in his eyes. However, they were only at the 8th or 9th level of the primitive martial realm. He could kill them as easily as killing chickens and dogs. He turned around and took out a healing pill from his storage ring. He jokingly said, "Beautiful senior sister, eat this pill first. Let me tell you, I came here with the mentality of a hero saving a beauty. Just wait for me to repay you with my body. You are courting death. You're only at the 7th level of the primitive martial realm, yet you're so arrogant. I think that in the Coiling Dragon secret realm, he killed our Zhao clan disciples, but it was all boasting by the Coiling Dragon Martial Institute. Kill him." Since they knew this, they still did not run when they saw him. Chu Yang was really impressed by these idiots. The hissing sound of the 7-colored python instantly woke the Zhao clan disciples from their arrogance. "This is a 7-colored python that you created with your true energy," Yang Qi said. "Impossible, this is impossible. He's only at the 7th level of the primitive martial realm. How can he use the methods of the Qi Soul realm? It must be an illusion, don't be scared by him." Right, before he finished speaking, there was a miserable shriek. The Zhao clan disciples tried to attack the 7-colored python, but found that it was useless. One of them was directly bitten and swallowed into his stomach, and he was dead. The other two were scared out of their wit. At this moment, they were still in disbelief. You, how can you use the methods of the Qi Soul realm?" Chapter 142. Spare me. The remaining Zhao clan disciples were instantly killed. With a boom, the 3-meter-long python dispersed, and the Zhao clan disciples fell from it. Shockingly, it was as if they had been swallowed into the belly of a snake. Their bodies were riddled with holes, and white smoke rose from them. The 7-colored heaven-devouring python's poison was extremely strong, and it was formed from its blood essence. It had many of the 7-colored heaven-devouring python's attributes, which was extremely shocking. Junior, Brother Chu, how did you do it?" Wang Xiaoman also couldn't believe that Chu Yang's cultivation level was getting lower and lower as he cultivated, but he was still able to use the techniques of a Qi Soul Realm expert and use a true origin skill to transform into a huge python with astonishing power. It was unimaginable. Chu Yang had already changed the topic. "Senior sister, how did you end up in such a sorry state, being chased by a bunch of idiots?" "There's more," he said with a smile. "Senior sister, are you ready to give yourself to me? I'm already so hungry." Wang Xiaoman's face reddened, and she said in shock, "Junior brother Chu, you should quickly return to the martial courtyard. The Zhao family and Azure Dragon School have gone crazy this time. They are besieging the martial courtyard, and Deacon Li and the dean are already heavily injured." "What?" The smile on Chu Yang's face froze, and then he calmed down. "Senior sister, speak slowly, don't rush." After swallowing the healing pill, Wang Xiaoman's complexion improved a lot. After the Coiling Dragon's secret realm, the Zhao family and Azure Dragon School knew that their intentions were exposed, and they were afraid of being punished, so they took the initiative and colluded to besiege the martial courtyard. How could Uncle Li and the dean be so easily injured? Deacon Li was Li Yu. Wang Xiaoman's face was full of hatred. It's all because of Zhao Du and those bastards from the martial courtyard. They colluded with each other and plotted against Deacon Li and the dean. Although they didn't succeed, the Azure Dragon School's sect leader and Zhao Ba both attacked at the same time, adding to Deacon Li and the dean's injuries. The Zhao family and Azure Dragon School, aren't they afraid of angering the Five-Element sect? Chu Yang's eyes were cold. If the martial courtyard, then his parents, brothers and sisters. He didn't dare to imagine it. The anger on Wang Xiaoman's face grew. "Junior brother, you should know that there are many Zhao clan disciples who have entered the Five Elements sect through the martial academy." With that said, Chu Yang understood. The Zhao family and the Azure Dragon School were well prepared. Chu Yang quickly understood the general situation. Although Li Yu was heavily injured, he had also heavily injured the Azure Dragon School's schoolhead, Song Lai, and was directly carried back to the Azure Dragon School. Nangong Ying did not let Zhao Ba off easy either. Both of them were heavily injured, but Zhao Ba was in a much better state. Although his battle strength was greatly reduced, his injuries would recover faster than Nangong Ying. His father, Chu Yunlong, fought with Zhao Meng and lost an arm. As for Wang Xiaoman, when the Zhao clan and the Azure Dragon School besieged the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution, she wasn't in the martial institution. Therefore, she was fortunate enough to escape the calamity. However, when she went to investigate the situation, she was discovered by the Zhao clan, which led to the earlier scene. "Zhao family! Azure Dragon School!" Chu Yang's expression was extremely gloomy. "I will make you pay the heaviest price." Chu Yang's eyes burst out with an oppressive radiance. The aura on his body frightened Wang Xiaoman. She felt as if she was facing the dean of the martial institution, Nangong Ying. "I might not be able to take care of senior sister. Here are the recuperation elixirs, chi-generating elixirs, body-nourishing elixirs, and divine accumulation elixirs. Senior sister, you should be more careful." Chu Yang suddenly raised his head and let out a heaven-shaking roar. The mournful roar reverberated in all directions. His body was surging with murderous aura like the tide and waves, causing people to be endlessly frightened. "Zhao clan, Azure Dragon School, if anything happens to my parents, elder brother, or elder sister, I will kill all of you." Bang! A burst of air exploded, and Chu Yang instantly disappeared without a trace. "Such fast speed, how is it possible?" Wang Xiaoman cried out involuntarily. Her eyes were lifeless, and she had almost lost the ability to think. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, she would never have believed that in just a few days, Chu Yang's martial Dao had actually improved to such an extent. Not only was he able to use true essence skills, his speed was also terrifying. Most of the Chi Soul Realm experts that she had seen before did not have such speed. So much so that she had such a feeling, "Junior brother Chu is so amazing, perhaps he can turn the tide." However, she instantly knew that this thought was ridiculous. Shortly after, her body trembled. She shouldn't have allowed Chu Yang to return to the martial institution. That was simply walking right into a trap. Chapter 143. Chu Yang calculated that it would take him at least half a day to return to the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution. His heart was burning with anxiety, and this feeling was getting stronger and stronger. I hope that the martial institution can hold on. This was Chu Yang's only hope now. At the same time, his mind was rapidly going through the entire situation. The Azure Dragon School must not have mobilized all their forces, or else the martial institution would have been breached. This also meant that the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution and the Azure Dragon School would not dare to be too ostentatious. The Zhao clan and the Azure Dragon School must treat this as an internal strife of the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution. If the Zhao clan and the Azure Dragon School attacked the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution together, once this news was confirmed, it would be a slap to the Five Elements sect's face. Be it the Zhao clan or the Azure Dragon School, they would definitely be annihilated. This also means that the Zhao clan and the Azure Dragon School are cooperating with Zhao Du to overthrow the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution. This would explain why the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution had not been breached yet. Of course, the Zhao clan must have mobilized all their forces. They had a very good excuse. Many of the Zhao clan's disciples were not only members of the Zhao clan, but also disciples of the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution. Therefore, they would not leave any traces behind. This should be premeditated. The extent of the Zhao clan's infiltration in the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution was probably beyond imagination. Many of the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution's disciples should have been roped in by the Zhao clan. This was the reason why they started the rebellion. Chu Yang's mind was getting clearer. Zhao Ba, Zhao Meng, Azure Dragon School's sect leader Song Lai, Coiling Dragon Martial Institution's Deacon Zhao Du, Douan Tai, etc. These names flashed through his mind one by one. The most threatening ones should be Zhao Ba and Zhao Meng. Fortunately, Zhao Ba was already injured. Otherwise, Chu Yang would not have a chance. As for Zhao Meng, he should be at the Qi Soul Realm's dual element realm. How should he deal with Zhao Ba? How should he deal with Zhao Meng? What did he rely on? After Chu Yang killed the seven-colored heaven-devouring python, he was confident that he could kill ordinary first-layer Qi Soul Realm martial artists, especially now that his Qi was comparable to true essence. However, he had no confidence in dealing with Zhao Meng, who was at the dual element realm. Zhao Du and Douan Tai, these traitorous deacons. Preparedness leads to success, and unpreparedness leads to failure. Chu Yang thought of the worst-case scenario. It could be said that this was the biggest crisis he had ever encountered. The Coiling Dragon Martial Institution was a huge whirlpool. He might be like a huge rock that fell into it and there would be no more movement. The sky was getting darker and darker. It was almost dark, just like Chu Yang's mood at the moment. However, this did not affect Chu Yang. He used all his strength to rush back to the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution. Whoosh! Before Chu Yang's physical strength weakened, his genius martial spirit, fool martial spirit, saber sword martial spirit, and flood dragon martial spirit were already crazily devouring the origin Qi of heaven and earth. Even Little Six was using his full strength. If Chu Yang died, it would also die. The advantage of having many martial spirits was evident at this moment. Chu Yang was like a fast-moving whirlpool. Wherever he went, the origin Qi would be sucked in. It was a horrifying scene. Chu Yang, who was sprinting, was like a small ball of hot air. Wherever he passed, there would be a violent gust of wind. Sand and stones would fly and dust would be blown into the sky. The speed at which he devoured the origin Qi of heaven and earth was extremely terrifying. Strands of origin Qi of heaven and earth would be instantly devoured when they got close. It was as though the pores on his body were all heaven-devouring titanic beasts or black holes. This was the result of tempering, especially after the tempering of water and fire. Although his strength and cultivation level had been washed away, his ability to devour origin Qi of heaven and earth had increased tremendously. The origin Qi of heaven and earth surged into Chu Yang's body from all directions. The origin qi of heaven and earth was rapidly absorbed, replenishing Chu Yang's exhausted physical strength and transforming it into true qi. After rushing back from the Coiling Dragon mountain range, Chu Yang could vaguely see the lights of the Coiling Dragon town. Although he had consumed a lot of true qi, his true qi had increased instead of decreasing. He had even climbed from the peak of the 7th level of the Origin Martial Realm to the peak of the 8th level of the Origin Martial Realm. This was equivalent to half a day of crazy cultivation. If he did not consume any true qi, he might have already recovered to the 9th level of the Origin Martial Realm. This gave Chu Yang a lot of confidence. Such a thing could be said to be unheard of. If people knew about it, they would probably be scared to death. Chapter 144. Sharpening the axe would not delay the work of chopping firewood. After he adjusted himself to his optimal state, he immediately rushed towards the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution. Buzz. The air was sliced apart as Chu Yang rapidly disappeared into the night. Who is it? Stop right there. With a shout, a few figures lined up in a row and blocked in front of Chu Yang. But as Chu Yang approached and saw the astonishing aura, he immediately shouted again, "The Coiling Dragon Martial Institution is killing a rebellion. Unrelated people, please make a detour." These people were disciples of the Martial Institution and disciples of the Zhao clan. Die! Chu Yang raised his hand and slapped, stirring up a violent air current as he slapped over. Boom! A force that could topple the mountains and overturn the seas swept up an unparalleled air wave that blasted forward. With a loud boom, a row of Zhao clan disciples screamed out miserably as they were blasted into pieces and died without a complete corpse. Someone is trying to barge into the martial institution. Quickly stop him. In the darkness, someone exclaimed, "I am the disciple of the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution, Chu Yang. Those who block me shall die." Chu Yang roared like a lion. The sound waves were like a large bell that resonated through the void. What? It's Chu Yang. The one who killed the Azure Dragon School's young matriarch, Chu Yang. He actually came back. Many people exclaimed in fear. Chu Yang had completely killed his way to fame. He was even able to kill a Qi Soul Realm martial artist in the Origin Martial Realm. Good timing. There was a path to heaven but you didn't take it. There was no door to hell but you barged in. Chu Yang, we were worried that we wouldn't be able to find you. I didn't expect you to be so stupid as to deliver yourself to our doorstep. Someone said in a sinister voice. With just you. Chu Yang's eyes revealed an ominous glint. He took 2 steps forward and flew towards the source of the voice. He appeared in front of the Zhao clan disciple, who spoke in the darkness, and extended his hand. Like grabbing a duck, he grabbed the disciple's neck and lifted him up. "Let me go. Master. Kill him." The disciple of the Zhao family never expected that Chu Yang would be so amazing. He was at the peak of the 9th level of the Origin Martial Realm, but he did not have the strength to fight back. He was like a chicken being choked by the neck. He struggled desperately, but soon he could not speak. The Zhao clan and the Azure Dragon sect are audacious enough to attack the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution under the 5 Elements sect. Die. Chu Yang clenched his fingers, and with a cracking sound, the immense power directly crushed this person's neck. Blood and flesh splattered everywhere as the head was separated from the body and flew into the air, causing everyone who saw this scene to tremble in fear. Coiling Dragon Martial Institution's subordinate disciple has set things right. We will not pursue this matter. Those who refuse to realize their error and assist the King of Zhou in his evil deeds will have their entire clan executed. Chu Yang's voice rumbled like thunder. Not only did it resound throughout the entire Coiling Dragon Martial Institution, it even reverberated throughout Coiling Dragon Town. Just a few words were more powerful than any technique. It directly struck the weak spot of the Zhao clan and the Azure Dragon sect. His words were also frightening. The disciples of the martial institution who participated in the rebellion would not only die, but their entire clan would also be executed. At this moment, whatever ruthless and murderous thoughts were all thrown to the back of Chu Yang's mind. He did not care about these torrential floods. It's just a mere Chu Yang. No matter how capable he is, he can only crush a few nails. Everyone, attack together and kill him. After this, Deacon Zhao will definitely reward you handsomely. 10 people swarmed up and surrounded him. Some of them were disciples of the Zhao clan, while others were disciples of the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution. All of them were loyal to the death. Otherwise, they would not have placed such an important position at the entrance of the martial institution. Ignorant. Today, I will teach you how to write the word death. Boom. Chu Yang's eyes turned cold as he emitted an eerie baleful aura. It was as though a divine elephant was stomping on a mountain. Anyone who came into contact with it would either die or be injured. It was especially so for a few people who were in an even more miserable state. Chu Yang slammed down with a few palm strikes, smashing their heads into their chests before exploding. It was hard to tell which part was flesh and which part was brains. Pong pong pong. Chapter 145. Anyone in his way would die. No one was a match for him. Chu Yang was like a hungry wolf rampaging through a flock of sheep. The rest of the survivors were scared out of their wit. Chu Yang, you are dead meat. Do you think you can save the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution? Idiot, you are just here to die. Chu Yang continued to charge in. Suddenly, a voice filled with resentment echoed. He looked up and saw Yi Tianhao and O Junchuang. Among these two, Yi Tianhao was the disciple of Deacon Zhang. He had been defeated by Chu Yang in one move in the academy tournament. O Junchuang was in a similar situation. Both of them had lost to Chu Yang in the martial academy tournament. But now they were bossy and arrogant. With the martial institutions and Zhao clan's disciples standing behind them, they became even more arrogant and resentful. For Chu Yang, this was just a repeat of the scene at the entrance of the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution. After committing suicide, the resistance at the entrance and here were relatively fierce. There was almost no resistance in the middle. The strength of these two places was almost the same. However, the front was dominated by the Zhao clan's disciples, while this place was dominated by the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution's disciples. This place was also a crucial place. Behind it was the Coiling Dragon Grand Hall. The Coiling Dragon Grand Hall was the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution's final barrier. The founder of the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution had predicted that the martial institution would fall into a crisis. Therefore, he built the Coiling Dragon Grand Hall to defend against the enemy. Right now, the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution, Chu Yang's parents, big brother, and big sister should be inside. Zhao Meng, Zhao Du, Douantai, and the others weren't here. This meant that the Zhao clan had yet to succeed. Chu Yang swept his gaze and calmed down. When he looked at Yi Tianhao and O Junchuang again, his eyes were filled with cold light. So it's you two, trash. I will give you one last chance. Immediately set things right. Otherwise, I will exterminate your entire clan. Ha ha! Yi Tianhao and O Junchuang laughed as if they had heard the funniest joke. With just you? Lowly bastard! Who do you think you are? If I were you, I would immediately kneel down and beg for mercy. Repent immediately. This way we will let you die a better death. The group of people behind the two of them also clamored one after another. They were just people who wouldn't shed tears until they saw the coffin. How could Chu Yang put them in his eyes? He sneered endlessly. As expected, you're all idiots who don't have the slightest bit of discernment. The dignified Five-Element sect didn't seek refuge, but instead chose to become the Zhao clan's dog. I've never seen such idiots as you. Zhao family's dog? Yi Tianhao sneered. What a joke. He's just giving up the darkness for the light. Oh, Zhunshuang also ridiculed endlessly. So what if we rely on the Zhao family? We will obtain the Azure Dragon Pellet and obtain a huge amount of resources. Moreover, we can also enter the Five Elements sect. This is just the Zhao family and the Azure Dragon School suppressing the unrest for the martial courtyard. It's just suppressing unrest, and you still need resources. Chu Yang's killing intent surged as he sneered. Is your surname Zhao? This question stunned all of them. Enter the Five Elements sect. Chu Yang's voice became even more sarcastic. Even if the Zhao family and the Azure Dragon School succeed in the end, and their people in the Five Elements sect suppress this matter, who doesn't know that you, the original disciples of the Coiling Dragon Martial Courtyard, are all traitors? Do you think the Five Elements sect will still nurture you? This is the biggest stain in your life. You can't erase it no matter where you go, and you still think you're so proud of it. Even idiot isn't enough to describe your intelligence. The Coiling Dragon Martial Courtyard's disciples couldn't help but have a drastic change in expression. This was the truth. Don't listen to his lies, kill him. Yi Tianhao and O Zhunshuang's hearts were also shaken, but their resentment and jealousy still suppressed everything. Do you think I'm wasting my breath because of you two trash? Chu Yang's voice was incomparably cold. You two aren't worthy. Killing you will only dirty my hand. This was the truth, and he said this for the Coiling Dragon Martial Courtyard's disciples to hear. It could also be said that this was his usage of influence, and the Five Elements sect was currently the biggest influence. Not worthy. Yi Tianhao and O Zhunshuang's faces flushed red. We only lost to you once. Chu Yang, do you really think you're a genius and that you're invincible? That's why I said you two aren't worthy. Chu Yang said coldly. You're so stupid that I have nothing to say. You're so stupid that I pity you. You're so stupid that I'm worried about you. How are you going to live? Chapter 146. Boom. Yi Tianhao and O Zhunshuang were like two waves, leading a group of people to surge forward like a tidal wave. Swish. The moment Chu Yang moved, the air seemed to be cut apart. His hands went straight for Yi Tianhao and O Zhunshuang's neck. He was extremely tyrannical. He ignored all of their attacks and forcefully broke through all of their obstructions. He grabbed their necks as if he was grabbing two ducks and lifted them up. Extremely terrifying. Chu Yang was the biggest wave, a sky-shaking tsunami that submerged this wave, causing it to instantly retreat. Yi Tianhao and O Zhunshuang were so frightened by Chu Yang that they kept retreating. Gotcha! With two crisp sounds, Chu Yang directly broke the two's necks, just like how he killed the Zhao clan's disciple before. His huge strength caused the two's necks to burst open. Their heads flew up into the sky as blood spurted out. Yi Tianhao and O Zhunshuang's eyes were wide open with extreme horror. They couldn't believe that this was real even in death. With two muffled sounds, the two heads fell to the ground and rolled on the ground. They died with their eyes wide open, causing everyone to tremble in fear. As soon as Chu Yang took a step forward, the disciples of the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution finally couldn't bear such terror. Run, quickly run. If you don't run, you'll die. He's not a human. Too terrifying, how can he be so powerful? Who can be his opponent? Demon. Most of them seemed to hate themselves for not having two more legs. They were scared witless and ran away. This was the advantage of brutality. It seemed cruel, but it was actually merciful. Otherwise, more people would die. Bang bang bang. No one ran away. Chu Yang no longer spoke nonsense and launched his great thousand-leaf hands. One palm, one head, one watermelon, all of their heads exploded. They were all dead. Right now, he only had the physical strength of 2 elephants and a half. None of these people could be his opponent. His astonishing and heaven-defying strength was also manifested at this moment. Killing a 9th-level origin martial realm martial artist was like killing a chicken or a dog, effortless. In an instant, there was no one in front of Chu Yang. Corpses littered the ground beneath his feet. Just as he was about to make his way to the coiling dragon hall, a furious roar burst out. "Bastard, how dare you be so fierce!" He looked up, and the killing intent in his eyes exploded. Do-on-tai. Although Do-on-tai was a deacon of the martial courtyard, he was more obedient than a dog in front of the Zhao clan. Before the martial courtyard tournament, he wanted to kill Chu Yang, but he failed. Now that the martial institution was in chaos, this Do-on-tai was definitely the main force and played a huge role. If Do-on-tai did not die, it would not be enough to intimidate them. The rebellious disciples of the martial courtyard would definitely not know their mistake. The undying heaven could tolerate him, but Chu Yang could not tolerate him. Boom! A large hand that was like a huge millstone pressed down on Chu Yang's head. This Do-on-tai had actually stepped into the Chi Soul realm. However, he had only just stepped into the Chi Soul realm. The true origin that was condensed into a large hand was sloppy and ordinary, far inferior to Song Hongtu's. "Old dog." As Chu Yang spoke, he raised one of his hands into the sky. True Qi gushed out and transformed into an even larger hand. It grabbed the large hand and directly crushed it. In an instant, true origin exploded and a fierce wind blew. Chu Yang's sleeves fluttered in the wind. Do-on-tai was so scared that he trembled, and his eyes were filled with fear. "You are just a trash, a useless dog." Chu Yang coldly looked at Do-on-tai. "You are now, you will be in the future, you will be in death, you will be in life, and you will be in 3 lifetimes. Killing you is no different from killing a dog." Such a shocking scene was witnessed by all the disciples of the martial courtyard who were hiding in the dark. They were scared to death. "You?" Do-on-tai's expression changed greatly. Blood was about to burst out from his face. It was extremely red, but fear made him turn around and flee. "Old dog, do you think you can escape?" Schwa. Chapter 147. This earth-shattering roar was truly like thunder, rumbling and shaking the surroundings. Before his voice faded, 2 figures pounced out of the coiling dragon hall, one in front and one behind, blocking Chu Yang's path. Boom! A flaming palm rapidly expanded in the void. In the end, it was like the palm of a Buddha. It raised a monstrous force and grabbed at Chu Yang. Roar! Almost at the same time, a huge phantom pounced at Chu Yang. It swept through the void, causing the air to collapse and emit a rumbling sound. Boom! Chu Yang used the 3rd transformation of his origin martial art. His strength suddenly increased, and he directly charged through. The 2 heaven-shaking attacks landed on empty air. And at this time, Chu Yang had already caught up with Do-on-tai. Die! Do-on-tai's true essence condensed into a flying sword and shot out. His martial spirit was a sword martial spirit. This was his true essence skill. Suddenly, he was caught off guard. It was as if Chu Yang had slammed into the flying sword. However, he did not slow down. Instead, his speed increased. With a boom, he collided with the flying sword and shattered the flying sword condensed from Do-on-tai's true essence. No, Do-on-tai could not believe it. His flying sword was condensed from his true essence. Furthermore, it was his true essence skill. It was extremely powerful and could kill origin martial realm experts like killing chickens. However, it had been shattered by Chu Yang. It was like a wooden sword had collided with a huge piece of iron. Chu Yang's true qi was of a higher quality than Do-on-tai's true essence. His body was extremely powerful and his true qi covered his entire body. Do-on-tai was just a piece of rotten wood in front of him. However, this scene was too frightening. The 2 people who had rushed out to save Do-on-tai were frightened. For a moment they were stunned on the spot. They stared blankly at everything in front of them and at Chu Yang. The surroundings were deathly silent. Everyone who saw this scene was so frightened that their hearts were about to explode. In this silence, Chu Yang was like a god of death. He arrived in an instant. With a snap, his hand stretched out like the hand of a demon from hell and grabbed Do Antai's neck, lifting him up. Old dog, I said that killing you is no different from killing a dog. Am I joking? Do Antai could not answer. He was choked by Chu Yang to the point that his tongue was sticking out. His face was flushed red as he desperately tried to move Chu Yang's hands that were like iron pincers. His feet in the air, he was like a drowning man on the verge of death. Despair. Helplessness. Kacha. The crisp sound of Chu Yang snapping Do Antai's neck instantly made the surroundings even more silent. Even the sound of a needle dropping could be heard at this moment. I will kill Do Antai, who can stop me? What kind of power was this? What kind of horror was this? What kind of tyrannical power was this? There were almost no words that could describe this kind of elegance and grace. In the coiling dragon town, no one had ever seen this before. A martial artist of the origin martial realm killed a martial artist of the Chi Soul realm like killing a chicken or a dog. Do Antai, who was at the Chi Soul realm, was strangled to death. At this moment, everyone present felt as if the world had been turned upside down. It was as if the sun and moon had swapped places. It was as if the Chi Soul realm was the origin martial realm, and the origin martial realm was the Chi Soul realm. Everything had been completely reversed. And the reason for their confusion was Chu Yang. The godlike Chu Yang. At this moment, Chu Yang was acting as if he was the supreme ruler. He looked disdainfully in all directions. Looking at his background was like looking at the supreme background of an emperor. It was like looking at a sacred background. It was as if they were only qualified to see such a background, and were not lucky enough to see his supreme appearance. Bang! Chu Yang threw away Do Antai's corpse. He turned around and the sharp light in his eyes was like a heavenly sword that slashed in all directions. Everyone who was swept by his gaze immediately retreated. Deacon Zhang, you want to stop me? Chu Yang was majestic as he looked down at Deacon Zhang and Zhao Du. It was these two people who had stopped Chu Yang. And Deacon Zhang was Yi Tianhao's master. You! Chu Yang did not pay attention to him at all. He looked at the coiling dragon main hall 100 meters away. The coiling dragon main hall had already been broken through. At this moment, Nangong Ying was confronting a short middle-aged man. There was a broken spear in Nangong Ying's chest, and a broken sword on the short old man's right shoulder. Then, Chu Yang's pupil shrank. His father's left arm was indeed cut off. He and the 3 deacons of the Martial Arts Academy were confronting Zhao Meng. Zhao Meng had 2 martial pets by his side. One was a white lion at the first level of the Chi Soul realm. The other was a black eagle, also at the first level of the Chi Soul realm. It was not very big and landed on Zhao Meng's right shoulder. Chapter 148. Chu Yang couldn't find Chu Na's figure. His gaze was fixed on the coiling dragon main hall. He didn't even look over as he spoke to Deacon Zhang. Deacon Zhang, I respect you as a deacon of the martial institution. Even if you don't have any contributions, you have worked hard for the institution. Therefore, I will give you one last chance. Immediately withdraw from this matter and cut ties with the Zhao clan. Otherwise, you will be the next Do Antai. Chu Yang's words were chilling, and his killing intent was blazing. What? You want me to withdraw and cut ties with Zhao Meng? When Deacon Zhang heard this, he seemed to have heard the biggest joke in the world. Chu Yang, am I crazy or are you crazy? Deacon Zhang sneered incessantly. The coiling dragon martial institution's momentum is already gone. I'm just waiting to kill all of you who disobeyed me. After that, I will take care of Nangong Ying and Li Yu, the 2 old fogies. After that, I will be the dean of the coiling dragon martial institution. Immature brat, you are truly laughable. No matter how capable you are still not in the origin martial realm. Deacon Zhang took a few steps forward with a faint trace of excitement on his face. His gaze locked onto Chu Yang as if he would never let him escape. "This is the Zhao clan's promise to you." Chu Yang couldn't help but sneer. "You actually believe that they can even overthrow the Coiling Dragon martial institution? Who do you think you are? You are just a puppet and a dog at most. Today there is Deacon Zhang. In the future there will be another Deacon Zhang, and the next Deacon Zhang." Chu Yang directly pointed at him. "You are simply too stupid. You don't want to be a good person and want to be a dog. I feel ashamed for your parents." This is simply a case of muddle-headedness. His brain has been fed to the dogs. But he still believes in the Zhao clan. Chu Yang is thoroughly convinced by such an idiot. "Don't listen to this little bastard's nonsense." Zhao Du's expression changed. He was really afraid that Deacon Zhang would suddenly realize something. He coldly said, "This little bastard is just trying to drive a wedge between us. Don't fall for his trick." Not bad. Another 2 people escaped from the Coiling Dragon Hall and flew over. Their faces were unfamiliar, but Chu Yang had a vague impression of them. They should be Deacon Yang and Deacon Lu, who were closer to Deacon Zhang. The duo looked at Chu Yang and sneered. "This little bastard has a sharp tongue." Previously, he had exclaimed loudly and slandered the Zhao clan and the Azure Dragon School. He said that the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution was suppressing the rebellion and said that the Zhao clan and the Azure Dragon School were here to eliminate the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution. He truly deserves death. Chu Yang narrowed his eyes. These 2 were the loyal lackeys of the Zhao family. They were even more loyal than Deacon Zhang. "You don't even have a chance. I declare you 2 dead dogs." Shameless boasting. Arrogant. Chu Yang stared at the 2 of them, and it was as if they were facing a great enemy. "Don't panic," Zhao Du said. "This little bastard is only in the origin martial realm. No matter how monstrous he is, killing a Chi Soul realm martial artist is definitely his limit. He is not a match for the 4 of us." These words hit the nail on the head. It made Deacon Zhang, Deacon Yang, and Deacon Lu feel at ease. There was a huge gap between the origin martial realm and the Chi Soul realm. No matter how monstrous Chu Yang was, he could only fight 1-on-1 at most. With just a few words, Zhao Du had eliminated the pressure that Chu Yang had accumulated. Chapter 149. The entire area fell silent. "Ridiculous," Chu Yang said coolly. He really didn't think much of these 4, nor did he see them as a threat. His only opponents were Zhao Meng and Zhao Ba. "Today, I'll teach you a lesson." Chuckling coldly, he said, "There are some people you can't afford to offend. After you go to hell and reincarnate, you can forget everything, but don't forget what I've taught you." Arrogant. Zhang Luyang and the other 2 were infuriated by his sharp words. "Don't waste words with this little bastard. Kill him." Boom! The ground quaked as Zhao Du took the lead, followed by Zhang Luyang and the other 2. They attacked Chu Yang from 4 different directions. Howl of wind and roar of thunder. Zhao Du bellowed, and his real elemental energy surged out. A gale sprang up and lightning flashed. Then, a wind and thunder wolf the size of a calf was constructed. It set off waves of wind and thunder, and pounced towards Chu Yang with the momentum of a thunderbolt. "Humph!" Chu Yang snorted coldly, and his true energy surged out as well. A 7-colored python appeared, moving even faster than Zhao Du's, causing the latter's eyelids to twitch. However, this was only the beginning. What caused him to be even more shocked was that once this 7-colored python appeared, it opened its mouth wide and easily swallowed his true Yuan skill, Wind Thunderwolf, into its stomach. In the next moment, Zhang Luyang and the other 2's attacks also arrived. A 10-meter-long blood vine covered in thorns shot out like an arrow. A large cauldron smashed down from above. There was also a rolling stone that rumbled as if it was rolling down from a mountain peak. Chu Yang's expression was cold and disdainful to the extreme. It could be said that he was imposing without being angry. The seven-colored python appeared again, and swallowed the huge rock in one gulp. Then, it grabbed the huge cauldron with one hand, and grabbed the blood-red vine with the other hand with a pop sound. In the blink of an eye, Chu Yang was like a god, blocking all four attacks. The entire area was deathly silent. Zhao Du, Zhang Luyang, and the other three were all struck dumb. How valiant! A mere origin martial realm cultivator had actually managed to block the attacks of the four of them so easily. How could this be? How could this be? Even a monster wouldn't be able to do this. The four couldn't help but cry out in shock. As for the spectators, their hearts leapt out of their throat. Don't be surprised, Chu Yang said casually. I've said it before. All of you are trash. It's useless no matter how much you pile up. Trash will always be trash. Hiss. Of the two pythons, one charged toward Zhao Du while the other pounced toward Deacon Yang. Before the two of them could even unleash their attacks, the two pythons exploded, sending them flying backward. Here. Boom. Chu Yang threw the big cauldron at Deacon Lu with one hand. Deacon Lu's expression changed instantly. Deacon Zhang, come here and die. At this moment, the people who were secretly watching this scene discovered that Chu Yang's hand, which was holding the blood-red vine, wasn't injured in the slightest. Instead, the barbs on the blood-red vine were twisted and bent like steel needles. Puff! The blood-red vine suddenly tightened, and Deacon Zhang, who was on the other side, was instantly pulled over by Chu Yang. Deacon Zhang was scared out of his wits. He hurriedly abandoned the blood-red vine, and hurriedly retreated. Boom! On the other side, Deacon Lu was actually forced back by the cauldron condensed from his true essence. Every step he took caused the ground to tremble. His face flushed red, as if he had been smashed by a mountain. He was actually unable to block the terrifying power contained within. Chapter 150. What a shocking quality of Zhen Qi. It was even tougher than Zhen Yuan. That was why the seven-colored python could swallow the wolf of wind and thunder and the boulder in one gulp. His prediction was also extremely accurate. He knew that the wolf of wind and thunder and the boulder would struggle, so he detonated it directly. What a terrifying strength! He caught the cauldron with his bare hand. Even the controller of the cauldron couldn't withstand such strength. What a powerful physical body! The blood vine's barbs were extremely sharp and were even more terrifying than swords. But with a casual pinch, the barbs were bent. Everything happened in an instant. After everything happened, everyone seemed to understand. When they understood, they were stunned and petrified. Their minds buzzed and their thoughts stopped. What kind of terror was this? He had completely subverted the martial Tao rules of the origin martial realm and the Qi soul realm. He had trampled on the so-called iron rules and truth, casually mocking and ridiculing them. What kind of person could do this? Everyone couldn't help but look at Chu Yang without blinking. Those people who had thought that Chu Yang was dead for sure were now frightened to the point of wanting to run away. It seemed as if Chu Yang was omnipotent. He had seen through all their thoughts in their hearts. At this moment, time seemed to have stopped. Everyone, hold on for a while longer. Then, there will be nothing left for you to do. Suddenly, a relaxed and mocking voice rang out in the coiling dragon main hall. It was the heavily injured Deacon Liu. Chu Yang's location wasn't far from the coiling dragon grand hall. The commotion here, Chu Yang's domineering words, and his awe-inspiring aura were naturally noticed by the coiling dragon grand hall. It instantly roused the spirits of the coiling dragon martial institution. Junior Brother Chu is back. Haha, Junior Brother Chu is back. We are saved now. Those bastards from the Zhao clan. We haven't even killed enough in the coiling dragon secret realm. They actually dared to provoke our coiling dragon martial institution. They are simply courting death. Yes, they won't even know how they died. They don't even know how strong junior brother Chu is. They are extremely stupid. Li Hao, Zhang Tian, and the other disciples of the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution, especially Li Hao and Zhang Tian, might have understood Li Yu's intention. He was thinking of ways to raise their morale, so they did their best to cooperate with Li Yu. Haha. At this moment, Li Yu was laughing even harder. Our martial institution's monstrous genius is back. These Zhao family members are all trash in front of him. They can't even withstand a single blow. And you little brats, do you think Uncle Li is lying? The terror of the little sheep is not something you can imagine. It was not fake. Li Yu's words caused everyone's body to tremble. Li Yu coughed up blood as he laughed, but he was still not satisfied. He laughed again. These fools from the Zhao clan, they don't understand why I deliberately mentioned this little monster. This is a warning to you all. But it's not me, Li Yu, who's warning you. It's this freak. Ha. Li Yu's injuries were too severe. She couldn't laugh anymore and fainted. Was that really the case? Everyone might have believed it, but when Chu Yang heard it, he only thought of it as Uncle Li's brilliant plan to raise their morale. He thought that Uncle Li probably didn't believe that he could turn the tide. Uncle Li had placed more hope on the deacons and disciples of the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution. The unity of wills was like a city. Mountains couldn't shake and the sea couldn't drown. I cannot lose. Chu Yang knew that he was now the wind vane. Right now, victory or defeat was tied to him. There was no need to think about the future. The Zhao clan's focus would definitely be on him. No matter what, they had to destroy this bridgehead of the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution. Chapter 151. At this moment, Chu Yang felt that the weight on his shoulders had suddenly increased. Go, little lion, little eagle, kill that bastard for me. Zhao Meng's sharp eyes instantly locked onto Chu Yang's eyes. Then, 4 ominous lights suddenly shot out from the Coiling Dragon Hall. The ominous lights of the White Lion and the Black Eagle were also fixed on Chu Yang. Roar! The White Lion roared and rushed out from the Coiling Dragon Hall. Like a bolt of white lightning, it arrived in an instant and pounced at Chu Yang. Screech! The Black Eagle let out a high-pitched screech and spread its black wings. It rushed out from the Coiling Dragon Hall and soared into the sky. Then, it swooped down and clawed down with its black claws. The lion and eagle were both Qi Soul Realm demonic beasts. Together with Zhao Du and Zhang Luyang, there were 6 Qi Soul Realm experts besieging Chu Yang at the same time. They were besieging a Origin Martial Realm expert. How could Chu Yang resist? He could still withstand it. In the Coiling Dragon Hall, everyone from the Coiling Dragon Martial Arts Institution felt their hearts tighten. Their nerves were stretched taut. In any case, they had no choice. If they were in Chu Yang's shoes, they would close their eyes and wait for death. There was no way they could resist the joint attack of 6 Qi Soul Realm experts. Attack! Zhao Du roared. If Chu Yang did not die, the Zhao clan would perish. Rumble! Suddenly, the air waves surged and rumbled. It was as if there were really waves surging here. When the 6 Qi Soul Realm experts attacked at the same time, it was as if the sky was falling and the earth was splitting. The scene was extremely terrifying. Before the attacks arrived, the sharp wind had already arrived. Chu Yang's long hair and sleeves fluttered, but his expression was still calm. The corner of his mouth hooked up in a faint sneer. Boom! 3 air waves exploded around him, forming 3 auras. The air was blasted by his aura, forming a wave of air that soared into the sky like a beacon. Bang 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 bang! Behind him, divine elephants appeared one after another. The power of 1 elephant, 2 elephants, 3 elephants. A total of 7 divine elephants. An entire strength of 7 elephants shocked everyone to the point they were dumbstruck, and their heartbeats seemed to have stopped abruptly. An unsharpened broadsword appeared in Chu Yang's hand. Even in the face of the 6 astonishing attacks, he was still not afraid. It was as if the wolves of wind and thunder, the rolling boulders, the huge cauldron that came crashing down, the blood vines that were like sharp swords and spears, and the extremely ferocious black eagles and white lions were all his pets. They were all here to curry favor with him. What was there to fear? What was there to hide from? Whoosh! Chu Yang moved and slashed horizontally with his saber. A terrifying saber chi formed a glaring and sharp saber light. The saber light turned into a crescent moon and swept across. At this moment, the dazzling saber light made it hard for people to open their eyes. It was as if it was going to drown the world and drown everything. Roar! The white lion instantly let out an angry roar and retreated quickly. Its sharp lion claws had been sliced apart and blood was dripping. Immediately, the eagle's high-pitched cry was heard. Its pair of sharp black claws had also been slashed open. The wind thunder wolf also hurriedly dodged the saber light, but its throat was still cut open. If it had not been constructed with true origin energy, its throat would have been slit and it would have died an unnatural death. The 3 blood vines that were in a triangular shape were all cut apart. Only the cauldron and the boulder, which used force and weight to oppress people, collided with the saber light and exploded with a loud bang. The two were almost split in half, and the saber that followed directly split the cauldron and boulder in half. Just the saber light alone was extremely terrifying. Just one slash and it was already so terrifying. Chapter 152. The elegance of this blade made everyone gasp in astonishment. This blade was simply a blade of the gods. Chu Yang was simply a god descending to the mortal world. The members of the Zhao family instantly went silent. Their faces were lifeless, and their pupils were trembling. This saber seemed to have slit their throats, making them unable to make a sound. Moreover, it made them feel a strong aura of death. It seemed as if death had already beckoned to them. The gates of hell had already been opened for them, and Chu Yang was their funeral procession. Boom! The Coiling Dragon main hall exploded. Every member of the Coiling Dragon martial institution, regardless of whether they were deacons or disciples, was boiling with excitement. Deacon Li, he's not lying. He's speaking the truth. The power of 7 elephants is comparable to the strength of a 7th-layer Qi Soul Realm martial artist. This blade is simply earth-shattering. It killed a Qi Soul Realm martial artist in an instant. Junior Brother Chu's blade is many times more terrifying than the one in the Coiling Dragon's secret realm. Amidst the uproar, Li Hao and Zhang Tian's eyes were somewhat blurred. Chu Yang's blade made them yearn for it so much. Due to his injuries, Ji Jingqing did not participate in the core competition of the Coiling Dragon's secret realm. However, he had heard of Chu Yang's deeds. It was unimaginable for him to kill a Qi Soul Realm martial artist with a single blade. In his knowledge, Chu Yang's sword was the most terrifying. He did not have the slightest impression of his blade. However, at this moment, he no longer needed to think about it. Everything was displayed in front of his eyes. Even the blade in the Coiling Dragon's secret realm was not as terrifying as this blade. He's indeed someone I can't compare to. No one could understand Ji Jingqing's feelings at this moment. Only he knew. He felt lonely, but he also had the motivation to chase after Chu Yang. No matter what, he had to chase after Chu Yang. Today, I'll teach you how to be a man. Chu Yang took out the 7-colored heaven-devouring python's beast core. The 7-colored beast core was extremely dazzling. It was instantly imprinted in everyone's eyes. However, what made everyone's eyes pop out was that Chu Yang actually swallowed the beast core directly. How dare he? Wasn't he afraid of the conflict between the beast core energy and Qi, causing an explosion, or being completely demonized? There was no other way. Whether it was Zhao Du's group of 4 or the 2 demonic beasts, none of them were Chu Yang's targets. His targets were Zhao Meng and Zhao Ba. The Origin Martial Third Transformation was his trump card. He had no choice but to use it now, but he could not continue to use it. Otherwise, he would be powerless to deal with Zhao Meng and Zhao Ba. Boom! In an instant, it was as if a star had fallen into the ocean. With Chu Yang as the center, waves of qi surged out like raging waves. Following that, Chu Yang's body underwent a great change. His hair turned rainbow, his face turned rainbow, and his skin turned rainbow. His entire being, his pupils, everything turned rainbow. Snake scales quickly appeared on his skin, and his pupils seemed to become vertical slits. His tongue seemed to be branching out. This was the prelude to demonization. Suppress. Chu Yang operated the cultivation method of the Overlord Fist. Billowing beast core energy surged along his meridians and was quickly absorbed by his body. At the same time, it clashed with the qi in his body. The quality of his qi was no weaker than the beast core energy, and this was an important reason why his blade had become so terrifying. Bang! 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 From his body, explosive sounds constantly rang out. In some places, the conflict between the beast core energy and the beast core energy was so intense that his flesh and blood directly burst apart. He can't suppress the beast core energy. He's going to demonize. Once he demonizes, his soul will definitely be attacked by the beast core energy, and he will lose his reason and calm. Be careful. Try your best to avoid fighting him head-on and fool him to death. If he demonizes, he'll be an idiot. He'll be worse than a demonic beast. He'll only have brute force. He's not scary. Chu Yang was courting death. Zhao Du and the rest were overjoyed and spoke out to stabilize the morale of the troop. At this moment, they naturally wouldn't affect Chu Yang's demonization. If Chu Yang didn't lose his reason, he would be courting death. However, it would be different later on. The Coiling Dragon Martial Institution never expected such a sudden change. They didn't expect Chu Yang to be so extreme and actually swallow the beast core. Chapter 153. Pung. Chu Yang's whole body emitted rolling flames. His lower abdomen also lit up, as if a giant had appeared. There seemed to be a golden treasure there as well. The golden light was dazzling. The sudden appearance of this phenomenon shocked everyone. Chu Yang dared to devour the Yao Dan, so he had his own methods. Fortunately, this was far from enough. Chu Yang's demonification was still ongoing. His skin was turning into snake skin, and his bones were elongated. His hands and feet seemed to be on the verge of disappearing, turning into a snake without hands and feet. I am the Overlord, who dares to disobey? Chu Yang opened his arms, raised his head, and let out a long roar. His seven-colored hair fluttered in the wind, as if countless seven-colored snakes were slithering around. It was both strange and shocking. Soon after, his body was like the night sky, and the acupuncture points on his body lit up like stars. First was the center line of his abdomen, where his body was 64. An acupuncture point lit up like a lantern in the night sky. As this acupuncture point continued to devour the Yao Dan, it became even brighter, emitting seven-colored rays of light. It was as if the acupuncture point had been divinized. Soon after, it seemed as if the night had turned even darker, and stars began to appear in the starry sky. Many of Chu Yang's aperture acupoints lit up. Some of them were unknown aperture acupoints, and some were newly opened. These bright lantern-like and star-like acupuncture points outlined the figure of an overlord. His aura was like that of a tiger, and he was the only one who reigned supreme. Chu Yang's body emitted a domineering aura in an instant. Boom! As of this moment, rumbling sounds could be heard from inside of him, as if he were an enraged overlord. He was enraged at the defiant demonic qi, and wanted to use brute force and domineering force to exterminate them and suppress them. It was as if the overlord's power was too great, and it was as if the heaven and earth were collapsing. At this moment, Everyone felt as if Chu Yang's body was collapsing, and endless Yao Dan was being devoured. In the blink of an eye, the demonic phenomenon immediately stopped and reversed. Chu Yang instantly returned to his original form. His snake scales and snake-like skin instantly returned to their original appearance. His pupils were no longer vertical, his tongue did not split, and the feeling of his limbs degenerating completely disappeared. 7 colored hair, 7 colored eyes, 7 colored face, and 7 colored skin. All the colors receded like the tide. However, the demonic chi seemed to be like a rebel being suppressed by an overlord. Although it was frightened, its heart was filled with resentment. It resisted fiercely in secret and began to plot. Amit Ba! A Buddhist chant came out from his body. Then, a peacock appeared in his abdomen. It was angry, and 5 colored flames surged around it, completely suppressing the demonic chi. The demonic chi was completely suppressed by him. He actually succeeded in devouring the demonic core. What kind of cultivation technique is that? It's so domineering. Even the heterogeneous demonic chi was forcefully suppressed without any resistance. Isn't this a little too terrifying? Whether it was the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution or the Zhao clan, they were all shocked by this scene. Chu Yang seemed to be omnipotent. As the Yao Dan was suppressed and devoured, Chu Yang only felt that his body was like a giant beast that had just started eating. It was far from being full, and he felt incomparably hungry. Suddenly, he opened his mouth and took a deep breath. The void in front of him seemed to collapse, and endless heaven and earth yuan qi was pulled over and swallowed into his stomach. It was as if he had swallowed the entire heaven and earth in one bite. Deacon Zhang's legs were already trembling and shaking. Zhao Du, Deacon Yang, and Deacon Lu were so frightened that their pupils seemed to be jumping. It was as if their hearts were beating violently, and they were about to burst. Chapter 154. Zhao Meng's voice caused Zhao Du and the others to tremble. They had been waiting for death just now. If Chu Yang had completely refined the demon energy, it would have been a disaster. Hurry up and kill him. Zhao Du hurriedly made his move. Instantly, the sound of wind and thunder rang out from his body as a much larger wolf of wind and thunder rushed out from his abdomen and pounced on Chu Yang. Zhang Yang, Yang Lu, and the 2 demonic beasts, Black Eagle and White Lion, each pounced from 5 different directions. Ha ha! Chu Yang laughed loudly. Good, I'm still lacking a lot of true energy. You guys are really helping me in my hour of need. Hiss! A 7-colored heaven-devouring python rushed out and swallowed the wolf of wind and thunder like a snake devouring an elephant before returning to its body. From the other 2 directions, the boulders and cauldrons were also swallowed by 7-colored heaven-devouring pythons. To be exact, Chu Yang had already moved before they could return to his body. He took a step forward and his speed reached the extreme. He grabbed Zhao Du and used him as a shield to block the incoming attack. Then, he suddenly retreated. Zhao Du was powerless to resist. After exhausting most of his true energy to create the wolf of wind and thunder, he no longer had any protection. Like a helpless baby, he could only let Chu Yang do whatever he wanted. Boom! The 3 blood vines pierced through Zhao Du's body, followed by Black Eagle and White Lion's attacks. Zhao Du's body exploded into pieces, blood and flesh splattering everywhere. Chu Yang stood still, and the 3 7-colored heaven-devouring pythons that he had released returned to his body. His body swelled up fiercely, as if it was about to explode. But immediately, it shrank back fiercely, and everything returned to normal. He was safe and sound, and even a little unsatisfied. He could actually swallow the attacks of 3 Chi Soul Realm experts and still come out unscathed. What kind of terror was this? Was that still the body of a human? Just how powerful was it? At this moment, Zhang Lu Yang and the other 2 had the urge to break into a run. They no longer had any of their previous schemes, especially Deacon Zhang. He no longer had the dream of becoming the coiling dragon Marshal Insti, Tushan's Institute master. He only wanted to escape. Chu Yang counterattacked and went straight for Deacon Liu. Shocked, Deacon Liu hurriedly released a wall to block in front of him. With a boom, Chu Yang smashed through it like a piece of paper. Then, Chu Yang's fist landed on his chest and went straight through. A fist appeared on Deacon Liu's back. His body seemed to be as fragile as a piece of paper, unable to withstand a single blow. How is this possible? His voice came to an abrupt end as he died in an instant. The 4 attacks arrived as if they were fleeing, but it was already too late. Chu Yang pulled out his hand and used Deacon Liu's corpse to block it as if he was concocting Zhao Du. Chu Yang immediately retreated. The moment the 4 attacks fell, Chu Yang rushed out like a fierce tiger and went straight for Deacon Yang. A few incomparably tyrannical punches smashed through all of Deacon Yang's defenses. Then, with a whip kick, he directly swept Deacon Yang's waist into 2 pieces. I admit defeat. I will immediately set things right and cut off all ties with the Zhao clan. With a plop, Deacon Zhang knelt down in front of Chu Yang. Zhao Du died without a complete corpse. Deacon Liu died without a complete corpse. Deacon Yang was broken into 2. What about him? What would happen to him? He was completely terrified. You no longer have the chance. But Chu Yang arrived in an instant and slammed his palm down, directly smashing Deacon Yang's head into his chest. He couldn't be more dead. Roar. Black Eagle and White Lion were also frightened by Chu Yang's brutality. They quickly ran for their lives and ran towards Zhao Meng. You 2 bastards still want to escape? Leave the beast core and essence blood behind. Swish. The Black Eagle's 2 claws were chopped off by a saber light, and it fell from the sky. Chu Yang then caught up with the White Lion and stomped its head into the ground. Its body was as straight as a seesaw, and its white tail was also as straight as a pencil. Only its head was missing, and it looked like a heavenly deity was stepping on this seesaw. You dare! Chapter 155. Boom. A figure instantly arrived like an eagle. It was Zhao Meng. The 2 made their moves. The moment their palms collided, Zhao Meng felt as if he was struck by lightning. His entire body trembled as if he was hit by a mountain. He let out a scream and flew out like a ball. He even exclaimed, "What great strength!" Crushing. With just 1 contact, Chu Yang displayed a completely crushing strength. Zhao Meng was also an expert at the 2nd layer of the Qi Soul realm. He had the strength of at least 2 elephants. However, in front of Chu Yang, he was as weak as a child. The 2 were not even on the same level. Although Zhao Meng already knew that Chu Yang's strength was shocking, when he personally experienced it, his heart almost curled up. Roar. The sound of a beast's hole could be heard as the 2 exchanged blows. The White Lion that was being stepped on by Chu Yang struggled free. A strong gust of wind blew in Chu Yang's face as it opened its huge mouth, revealing its dense fangs as it pounced towards Chu Yang. Bastard, I originally wanted to keep you as a mount. I spared your life just now. Ridiculous. A cold light flashed in Chu Yang's eyes. He jumped up and a series of terrifying explosions erupted around him. It was like thunder rumbling in his body, and also like the roar of an overlord. At this moment, after swallowing the monster core, Chu Yang also had the terrifying strength of 7 elephants without using the 3rd transformation of the origin martial art. This explosion was extremely terrifying. Bang! Chu Yang's face was cold. He stretched his body and quickly descended like a sword. With 1 foot on the lion's head, he ruthlessly chopped down on the White Lion's waist like a knife. Roar! With a crisp crack, the lion roared. It fell to the ground on all 4s and let out a painful howl. Its spine was actually broken in half by Chu Yang's palm. Bastard, you dare to be so impudent in front of me! Chu Yang was extremely domineering at this moment. With a chi sound, he transformed his chi into a sword and pierced through the lion's head, killing it. Then, he transformed into a 7-colored python and took out the demon core from the white lion's body. His hand sucked fiercely, drawing out the blood from the white lion's body. With a pring sound, white smoke rose and a drop of blood essence was quickly refined. What? All the rebellious disciples of the coiling dragon martial insti Tushin were so frightened that their faces turned pale and their bodies started trembling. Only now did they understand that although Chu Yang's appearance seemed arrogant, he had actually given them a great opportunity. Unfortunately, their performance was too poor. During this period of time, Zhao Meng did not do anything. He just watched coldly. He had no intention of saving White Lion. The Black Eagle seemed to know that it had been abandoned. Its sharp eagle eyes were wide open and filled with fear. It said in human language, Don't want to kill me. It's too late. Bastard, you should have said those words earlier." With a swish, Chu Yang also directly obtained the Black Hawk's Yao core and blood essence. "Your 2 martial pets, didn't you care a lot about them? Why are you so cold?" Chu Yang sneered. This Zhao Meng's heart was really cold and hard. Since he's already trash, he'll only be a burden even if I save him. If he dies, then so be it. However, I'll just have to find him in the future. This kind of cold-blooded person was frightening. You've made a huge mistake by being cold. Chu Yang swallowed the Black Hawk and White Lion's Yao cores. Everyone from the coiling dragon martial insti Tushin felt like their hearts were about to explode. Was he crazy? Zhao Meng's eyes contracted. You are indeed a physique cultivator. Swallowing Yao cores should be a physique cultivator art. You have good eyesight. Boom. Chu Yang's body surged with demonic essence again. The eagle's cry and lion's roar echoed. The acupoints on his body started to turn cold again. However, it didn't take long before it calmed down. Chapter 156. Dragon Roar and Elephant Trumpet. 3 flying dragon images appeared behind Chu Yang. One dragon had the power of 3 elephants. Why aren't you answering? Did I say something wrong? After swallowing the Black Eagle and White Lion's monster cores, Chu Yang's strength had increased by another level. Zhao Meng and no one had expected such a result. Swallowing 3 monster cores in a row without any problems, not to mention a mere coiling dragon town, even in the 5 Elements sect, or the entire Wei country, this was an extremely shocking matter. When I met you in the coiling dragon mountain range, I should have killed you. The air around Zhao Meng whistled, his voice rising and falling. Although it's a bit late now, it's still not too late. Whether you admit it or not, you and I are not on the same level. You're even more foolish to embark on the path of body cultivation. Aren't you afraid of biting your tongue? You can't even save your own martial pet. Who are you showing off in front of? Chu Yang snorted coldly. The ground beneath his feet suddenly sank, and in an instant, a powerful aura spread out, turning into another storm to fight against Zhao Meng. Boom! In the blink of an eye, 2 gusts of wind flashed past. Zhao Meng and Chu Yang both soared into the air and fiercely pounced. Bang bang! 2 majestic True Qi and True Yuan rumbled as they collided in the void, illuminating the entire sky. At the same time, the 2 exchanged hundreds of punches and kicks in an instant. Boom boom boom! In the air, the 2 did not use any speed techniques, but their speed was faster than anything else, giving people a dazzling feeling. The surroundings whistled as violent air currents swept in all directions. At the top of the coiling dragon hall, a few thick glazed tiles were swept by the wind and cracked into pieces as if they were being whipped. How did his strength suddenly become so strong? Chu Yang's pupils shrank. Both of them were clashing in midair. Zhao Meng's punches were not inferior to Chu Yang's at all. The waves of energy that he had created were so strong that they even overshadowed Chu Yang's. This Zhao Meng is so strong. Chu Yang was secretly shocked. Boom! Chu Yang was sent flying by Zhao Meng's sudden increase in strength. The strength of a body cultivator is astonishing, but is it useful? Zhao Meng's robe fluttered as he gently descended from the sky. Chu Yang stood up from the cloud of dust. This was the first time he had been completely suppressed, both in terms of true qi and strength. Although the quality of his true qi was high, there was still a huge gap between it and the yin-yang essence. The strength of one dragon and 3 elephants was not weak, but Zhao Meng did not seem to have used his full strength. This was not Zhao Meng's power, but the power of a giant. It was as if a giant had suddenly appeared within Zhao Meng's body. True Yuan skill. Is that what he was doing just now? He used his true Yuan to construct a giant in his body, and then connected it with his flesh and blood. Chu Yang instantly understood the reason why Zhao Meng didn't save the 2 pets. Zhao Meng had constructed a giant in his body. Through Zhao Meng's true essence, it should be the monkey essence of the beast essence. Little Six was very clear that this was the violent Vajra demon ape. The so-called giant was the violent Vajra demon ape. The violent Vajra demon ape is built on the basis of the physical body. It is built with true Yuan and hidden within the body, yet it possesses such astonishing strength. No wonder body cultivators have been abandoned. Chu Yang's voice was still calm and unhurried. Chapter 157. This is your trump card? You don't seem to be that strong. I was afraid of you for nothing. Chu Yang grinned, revealing his white teeth. Everyone couldn't help but stare blankly at him. Humph! Ignorant! Zhao Meng's robes fluttered as he charged forward once more. Almost at the same time, Chu Yang's eyes turned cold as he charged forward, his aura bursting out even more. Boom! Like 2 giant beasts, the 2 of them once again collided with each other at the speed of a thunderbolt. There was a cracking sound. Strong winds howled as the ground around the 2 exploded. Dust soared into the air, and a massive spiderweb-like crack tore through the ground beneath their feet. Ah! Amidst the exclamations of surprise, the people who were watching the battle in the dark were swept away by the force of the collision between the 2 of them. They were turned upside down and retreated in a sorry state. In the coiling dragon palace, Nangong Ing and the short old man were completely focused on the fight. They saw all the details of the fight between Chu Yang and Zhao Meng. Strength, awareness, combat skills, quintessence. Zhao Meng is stronger than Chu Yang in all these aspects. However, Chu Yang's perception, reaction, and insight are stronger than Zhao Meng's. Nangong Xiao slowly frowned, feeling anxious but unable to do anything about it. Chu Yang and Zhao Meng were both geniuses of the martial Tao. However, in terms of combat skills, experience in life or death battles, how could they compare to Zhao Meng, who was older than him by 20 years? Boom! Chu Yang was sent flying again. Blood spurted out from the corner of his mouth. Little bastard, this is your limit. Ha ha! Chu Yang laughed from within the dust. Zhao Meng, you old bastard, this is also the limit of your strength. 2 dragon force. I was wondering how strong you were. Boom! All of the dust around Chu Yang had been swept away by the wave of qi created by using the 3rd cycle of the primitive martial technique. Everyone saw Chu Yang charge out like a dragon and arrive in an instant. The moment he came into contact with Zhao Meng, the strength of 3 dragons erupted behind him. Like kicking a child, he sent Zhao Meng flying with a whip kick. There was a loud rumbling sound as the coiling dragon martial institution's No. 1 building collapsed and buried Zhao Meng underneath. Zhao Meng, in your words, if this is all you've got, then you can go die. Chu Yang's voice echoed throughout the entire coiling dragon martial institution. Instantly, the stifled disciples in the coiling dragon grand hall burst out in cheers. Junior Brother Chu, good job. Kill him. Junior Brother Chu's magical powers are vast and boundless. Junior Brother Chu's magic power is boundless, and his life is as long as the heavens. Li Hao, Zhang Yang, and the others were the most excited. They used all the shameless slogans that Chu Yang came up with on Xiaomeng. There was no end to the shouting, and the entire Coiling Dragon Grand Hall was in an uproar. As for the Zhao clan, they had a gloomy expression. Even Xiaomeng wasn't a match for this little bastard. Ridiculous. A mere physique cultivator dares to be so arrogant? Boom. Everything that collapsed was blown away, revealing Xiaomeng's figure. The air around him was distorted. The earth and sky shook as a hairy black hand reached out from Xiaomeng's body. It seemed to be stretching his body. The space in Xiaomeng's body was too small, causing it to be suppressed. Then, a beam of black light shot out. In the blink of an eye, a 30-foot-tall, pitch-black demonic ape appeared before everyone's eyes. It was a ferocious demonic ape with boundless strength and boundless strength. It appeared right in front of everyone's eyes. Chapter 158. Roar. The Vajra violent demonic ape roared. Its pair of ferocious blood-red eyes moved a bit, as if it could shake the heaven and earth, as if it could create a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood between heaven and earth. With a wave of its hand, huge waves would surge into the sky. An extremely oppressive feeling spread out, almost suffocating people. This Vajra violent demonic ape is so shocking. Chu Yang's heart trembled fiercely. Little six words flashed in his mind again. The Vajra violent demonic ape was an ancient species, known for its great strength. It was said that it could carry mountains on its shoulders. Its body was even more tyrannical. Like Vajra, it was very difficult to injure its body. Roar. With a roar, Xiaomeng's demonic aura surged. In an instant, the sky darkened. The baleful aura soared into the sky. Xiaomeng's original aura was far from this tyrannical, but after using the Vajra violent demonic ape's true Yuan skill, the demonic flames on his body immediately soared into the sky, emitting a terrifying oppressive feeling. He has the blood essence of the Vajra violent demonic ape. Chu Yang's pupil could not help but shrink again. Just when Xiaomeng used the Vajra violent demonic ape, Chu Yang's aura suddenly changed. With a rumbling sound, his whole body emitted a boundless tyrannical aura, noble and dignified. He used all of his strength to use the Overlord Fist. All of the acupuncture points on his body lit up, as if forming the Big Dipper, outlining the shape of an overlord. Chu Yang's Zhenqi was comparable to the first Yuan level, but it was still a level lower than Xiaomeng's Yinyang Yuan. Only by using the Overlord Fist with the third transformation of the primitive martial, there was hope to suppress with strength. Monkey, you dare to be so arrogant in front of me. Little Six was very gloomy. It was still implicated even after death. I'm going to eat your monkey brain. It was indeed very ferocious. This bastard must have eaten a monkey brain. At this time, Little Six was very sure of this. In the Coiling Dragon Palace Hall, a group of attendants and disciples were stunned. Then Li Hao, Zhang Tian and the others said, "Junior Brother Chu, he is not serious again. Once he is not serious, he will definitely win." I agree with this point of view. Junior Brother Chu is not serious. He can simply anger his enemies to death. The disciples of the martial institution, who had participated in the Coiling Dragon Mystery Realm, suddenly relaxed and even teased them. Many of the martial institution's disciples couldn't help but feel puzzled. How could they have seen that we had won for sure? Even the tall and short deacons couldn't tell. However, Chu Yang's nonchalance destroyed the tense atmosphere in an instant. The destruction could be said to be incomparably shocking. "Little bastard, go to hell!" Xiaomeng's voice was like a giant bell, resounding throughout the world. Before he could finish his words, the violent Vajra demon ape leaped into the air, turning into a streak of devilish light as it pounced towards Chu Yang. Boom! With an earth-shattering boom, a dazzling radiance burst forth, and a resonant dragon roar resounded. Chu Yang and the Vajra violent demonic ape fiercely collided with each other. The air violently vibrated, and seemed to be startled by the shockwave. Overlord raises the cauldron. Swallow the mountains and rivers. Sovereign's descent. Overlord suppresses the seas. Every time Chu Yang punched out, his fist would sometimes be like a huge cauldron smashing out, sometimes it would be like uprooting a mountain, sometimes it would be like the fist of an emperor, and sometimes it would be like a vast ocean. Violent, tyrannical, and unique, he seemed to have transformed into the sole ruler of the world, and those who didn't submit would die. It was extremely shocking, and the aura that burst out made many people feel as if they had seen an emperor, and couldn't help but kneel down. Chapter 159. That's not right. Zhao Meng immediately felt that something was wrong. Chu Yang's strength had not only risen by an entire realm, but it was also inconceivably powerful. It had reached the strength of 4 dragons, and was on par with the violent King Kong demon ape formed from true essence. But that was not all. Chu Yang's speed and agility had also greatly increased. He has a body cultivation secret technique that can increase his strength and speed by 3 times. Zhao Meng had guessed half of it right, but it was not a body cultivation secret technique, but the 3rd revolution of the origin martial realm. Chu Yang had the strength of 1 dragon and 3 elephants before. After increasing his strength by 3 times, he had the strength of 3 dragons and 9 elephants. Adding on the Overlord Fist, he had an astonishing strength of 4 dragons. If I attack with Chu Yang's speed, Zhao Meng found that he could not find the slightest opportunity. This was also Zhao Meng's advantage. He could cooperate with his violent King Kong demon ape, but at the same time, he was also his greatest weakness. Compared to the body cultivator Chu Yang, Zhao Meng's strength was too lacking. Most importantly, he did not have enough true essence to form another violent King Kong demon ape. To form such a violent King Kong demon ape, the amount of true essence consumed was terrifying. Therefore, if he rashly attacked, Chu Yang would seize the opportunity to shake off the violent King Kong demon ape and directly attack him. The gains would not make up for the losses. Hee, monkey, do you know your wrongs? I can take care of you in a matter of minutes. Chu Yang laughed mischievously. He was actually showing off in front of a demon ape formed from true essence. Everyone's eyes were wide open. He really was too improper. However, he was truly formidable. He was actually suppressing the demon ape and madly beating it up. Although the demon ape's huge body was nimble, it could not keep up with Chu Yang's speed. Moreover, it had to constantly guard against Chu Yang breaking free and directly attacking Zhao Meng. Zhao Meng did not say a word, using the violent King Kong demon ape to its limit. Roar! Roar! With a world-shaking explosion, the huge demon ape beat its chest with its fists and roared at the sky. Its strength was great, and its movements were extremely agile. Each strike was heavy and powerful, giving off the feeling of a landslide. Bang bang bang! The berserk aura covered the sky and the black body actually burst out with dazzling golden light. The entire coiling dragon martial institution was violently trembling under the devil ape's eruption. Every time it smashed down, it would leave behind a large crater. The stone slabs would shatter piece by piece, flying in all directions, and dust would soar into the sky. The center of the battle had turned into a dangerous storm zone, and the air was turbulent. One vortex after another appeared around Chu Yang. In just a short time, 6 sinister devil apes appeared around him. That kind of terrifying aura caused everyone to feel shocked. I've used almost all of my trump cards, but I still can't shake off this demonic ape. Chu Yang was looking for an opportunity to break free from the demonic ape and go straight for Zhao Meng. As the battle became more and more intense, The gazes of Nangong Ing and the short old man in the coiling dragon palace both flickered. The battle between the two of them would determine their own life and death. Rumble. Amidst the loud noise, Zhao Meng's expression became more and more unsightly. If this continued, his violent Vajra demon ape might be smashed apart by Chu Yang. Ha ha ha, Zhao Meng, you don't look too good. Why? After seeing how strong I am, are you preparing to escape? Chu Yang was still waiting for an opportunity to mock Zhao Meng and infuriate him during the battle. Zhao Meng's expression was gloomy, and he was constantly looking for an opportunity to strike a fatal blow. Damn it, why is his speed so fast? How could someone in the origin martial realm have such speed, such power, and such keen insight? Chapter 160. Chu Yang was not as relaxed as he looked on the surface. The origin martial third revolution could not last forever. If he continued to fight with the violent Vajra demonic ape, he would definitely die. The surroundings were silent. No one made a sound. The short elder was already anxious. Chu Yang's speed was too shocking. Zhao Meng's defeat was only a matter of time. But in the silence, a crisp sound came from under his feet. A stone tile was split into pieces. His heart seemed to be curled up. The boulder in front of him was completely different from what he had imagined. Ah Meng, you cannot lose. If you lose, our Zhao clan will truly be finished. You and I will become sinners of the Zhao clan. This short elder was the Zhao clan's patriarch, Zhao Ba. Zhao Ba, a mere origin martial realm disciple of my academy, is able to stand up to your brother. Are you finally afraid now? How could Nangong Ing let go of such an opportunity to provoke Zhao Ba? Nangong Ing, don't be happy too early. It's still hard to say who will win. Zhao Ba's expression was extremely gloomy. His injuries were too severe. Although he had plotted against Nangong Ing and Li Yu, they had the coiling dragon fruit. If it was not for the coiling dragon fruit, there would not be such a situation. The coiling dragon martial institution would have already been taken over by the Zhao clan. Damn little bastard. If I survive this calamity, I will definitely tear you to pieces and grind your bones to dust. Zhao Ba hated Chu Yang to the extreme. The plan was originally perfect, but with the appearance of this monster, Chu Yang, it turned the perfect plan into a joke. It had also disrupted everything in the Zhao clan. If it was not for this Chu Yang, the Zhao clan would not have suffered any losses. It could be said that Chu Yang had destroyed the Zhao clan. He had destroyed everything in the Zhao clan, including their great future. How could Zhao Ba not hate him? How could he not want to drink his blood, eat his flesh, and gnaw his bones? But he was powerless. He could only be ruthless, resentful, and even fearful because he could not bear the consequences. As if he had heard Zhao Ba's thoughts, Zhao Meng finally changed. The violent Vajra demon ape shrunk to the height of a human and merged with Zhao Ba. Soon after, Zhao Meng's fighting style changed, suddenly becoming erratic and flexible. He moved from east to west, appearing and disappearing unpredictably. He tried to find Chu Yang's weakness from all aspects, instead of blindly fighting Chu Yang head-on. As a body cultivator, the most valiant thing was strength. A head-on confrontation was what Chu Yang hoped for. The sudden change caused Chu Yang's eyes to narrow. The pressure on him suddenly increased, and he had no choice but to hold his breath and concentrate on dealing with it. The size of the violent Vajra demon ape has shrunk. Not only has it become faster and more agile, its defense has also become more astonishing, and its strength has not weakened by much. Zhao Meng is also hiding inside. I don't have any chance to launch a sneak attack. Suddenly, Chu Yang was shaken. Could it be that he already saw that my origin martial third revolution cannot be maintained for too long, so he's intentionally stalling for time? If that's the case, then it's bad. And this Zhao Meng really can't be underestimated. He saw through my weakness long ago, but pretended not to know, completely confusing me. Chu Yang was shocked. A battle of life and death was ever-changing. It was not only a contest of strength, but also a contest of wits. One careless move and the whole game would be lost. Sure enough, these words were not empty words. He had been too careless. He had clearly been caught at his weakest point, and he did not even realize that he had been exposed. I definitely can't wait any longer. Between life and death, various techniques flashed through Chu Yang's mind, and all he could count on now was this. I can only try the great thousand-leaf hand. If I can disturb his mind, then I can kill him in one blow. Chapter 161. 1. Chu Yang erupted with all his strength, using the great thousand-leaf hands. Naturally, it was the second method. A buzzing sound was emitted from his body. At this moment, he actually made a breakthrough. For the second method of fighting, his original limit was 50 arms. However, at this moment, he broke through 2 checkpoints consecutively and produced 70 arms. The 70 arms were filled with illusions, but they also seemed to be a divine ring. Indistinguishable leaves. One leaf blinding eyes. Shifting roots and connecting leaves. True and false, false and true. One leaf blinding eyes, one leaf blinding eyes, one leaf blinding eyes. Shifting roots and connecting leaves was like a Buddha trying to save a demon. Ba. No. By the time he realized it, it was already too late. Bang, bang, bang. Chu Yang had already closed in on him long ago. His heavy arms and heavy palm shadows came crashing down. The 4 dragons behind him let out dragon roars as the heavy palm shadows all landed on his body. Boom, boom, boom. The violent Vajra demonic ape protecting Zhao Meng exploded under such a violent attack. No matter how tough its Zhen Yuan was, it couldn't withstand the power of 4 dragons. With a loud bang, Zhao Meng was sent flying. When he landed, the ground exploded and soil soared into the sky. In an instant, it was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. Not far away, Zhao Meng struggled to stand up. He coughed up blood, and his body was dripping with blood. His chest was caved in, and who knew how many bones were broken. Chu Yang's attack just now had seriously injured him. It was only a matter of time before he was defeated and killed. The destruction of the Zhao family was also imminent. Little bastard, you think you're the only one who's ruthless? I'll show you what ruthlessness is. Zhao Meng took out a Yao core. It was emitting a black demonic luster, and there seemed to be a demonic ape within. What Zhao Meng has isn't the blood essence of the Vajra demonic ape, but the demonic core of the Vajra demonic ape. This was not the only thing that Chu Yang had guessed wrong. This is the Vajra violent demon ape's demon core, and there is actually the demon ape's divine soul within it. Zhao Meng's gaze was incomparably complicated. He looked at Chu Yang with resentment, disbelief, and fear. All kinds of emotions intertwined as he looked at Chu Yang, who was not far away. Under everyone's shocked gazes, he directly swallowed the violent demon ape's monster core. Ruthless, who was more ruthless than who? You dare to devour the Yao core, but I don't. Before, Chu Yang dared to swallow the monster core, and now Zhao Meng did the same thing. Moreover, the monster core in his hand was far more terrifying and powerful than the one Chu Yang had swallowed. Zhao Meng no longer cared about his own life. Boom! Under everyone's shocked gazes, Zhao Meng suddenly raised his head to the sky and roared. In the next moment, black demon chi surged out from his body and turned into a huge wave that swept through the surroundings. Roar! An inhuman roar rang out, and the light and shadow in the huge wave changed. When everyone saw Zhao Meng again, he was no longer a human, but a demonic ape. The clothes on his body burst apart, revealing the black hair all over his body. Each strand of black hair seemed to be made of steel. Chapter 162. Zhao Meng had completely demonized and turned into a violent Vajra demon ape. Only his face was left. His face was still the same as before. It was as though Zhao Meng's face was placed on a violent Vajra demon ape. It looked extremely discordant, strange, and frightening. "Boss, be careful." Little Six's voice turned grave in Zhao Meng's consciousness. Such a degree of demonization isn't inferior to a violent Vajra demon ape. Chu Yang naturally knew. His eyelids twitched as a great sense of crisis engulfed his heart. The violent Vajra demon ape had astonishing strength and was unshakable like Vajra. However, it wasn't clumsy and was extremely agile. How should I deal with this? He had already used all his trump cards. Just as Chu Yang was distracted, the aura of the demonized Chu Yang's entire body surged, and he slapped with all his might. There was a loud rumble as Chu Yang was sent flying. "Junior brother Chu," everyone from the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution exclaimed. This scene was so sudden that even Chu Yang was caught off guard, let alone the disciples of the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution. At this moment, Zhao Meng was much stronger than before. What other methods do I have? Chu Yang's heart was in turmoil. This was the biggest crisis he had encountered since he had awakened his previous memories. Rumble! The demonized Zhao Meng didn't hesitate as he moved and blasted at Chu Yang with the speed of thunder. There was a surge of demonic aura as a sinister and weird laughter could be heard. "Jek, human, I have to express my gratitude. However, if I don't kill you, I won't be able to completely occupy this body." Zhao Meng's consciousness had been completely suppressed by the violent Vajra demon ape's divine soul. Amidst the weird laughter, there was a loud rumble as Zhao Meng smashed into the ground, creating a huge pit. Chu Yang escaped by a hair's breadth. "Bastard, you are still lacking if you want to kill me. You will know your mistake later." Chu Yang's voice was extremely cold as he pushed his genius martial soul to the limit. "Despicable human, who are you calling a bastard?" The violent Vajra demon ape was enraged as it raised its arm and smashed the violent ape hammer over. Boom! Boom! One move after another, the devil ape seemed to be displaying its own unique martial skills. Every move was extremely shocking, as if every punch could shake the heavens and earth. It was unknown how much more violent it was compared to Zhao Meng. Chu Yang was forced to retreat again and again, as if he could no longer resist. The competition between the two of them had developed to this point, and in the end, it was actually an animal that took advantage of it. It made people sigh, and even more so, shocked. "Nangong Ying, so what if your Coiling Dragon Martial Institution has a freak? You will still be destroyed." Zhao Ba's face was malevolent. His eyes were about to split open. His own brother was actually forced to such a place. He was mad with hatred. If you want to annihilate the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution, wouldn't you, Zhao Ba, and your Zhao clan have to suffer the same fate? Nangong Ying's expression was ashen, but how could he be at a disadvantage? He sneered and counterattacked. "Ha ha ha!" Zhao Ba seemed to have gone crazy as his twisted face was filled with resentment. "Later, I will definitely wipe out your Coiling Dragon Martial Institution. I will kill until your blood flows like a river, and not even a chicken or dog will be spared." "Humph, it's too early for you to be happy. Chu Yang isn't someone you can imagine. Do you really think that Li Mu was just scaring your Zhao clan? Simply ignorant. Chu Yang's innate talent, martial arts, reflexes, skills, and awareness were all too amazing. Who could have imagined what he was doing now?" Chapter 163. "Ha ha ha, Nangong Ying, you're just deceiving yourself." Zhao Ba sneered loudly, venting his grief and anger to his heart's content. "Deceiving myself?" Nangong Ying looked at the field with a mysterious smile on his face. Then, he looked at Chu Yunlong. "Zhao Ba, did you see Brother Chu's expression? Did he look worried at all?" Zhao Ba's smile came to an abrupt stop. Facing Zhao Ba's gaze, Chu Yunlong's face remained calm. Zhao Ba, to be honest, I'm not a heartless person, but this son of mine is definitely not someone I can imagine. You may think that I'm arrogant, but I think that my son will win. My son will win. His tone was extremely confident. Chu Yunlong was already looking at Chu Yang in the middle of the field. I have 2 sons. My eldest son is very outstanding. His journey was smooth sailing, but in the end, he returned with a broken arm. If my younger son can't even dominate this insignificant coiling dragon town, I think he should just forget about avenging his older brother. Father. In the coiling dragon hall, Chu Fei heard his father's words and said, Father, don't worry. Little brother has never met a decent opponent. He needs this kind of fight and this kind of pressure. Although this demonic ape is a mutant, it can't do anything to little brother. At most, it's little brother's whetstone. Without a decent opponent, this father and son pair. In the coiling dragon hall, no one knew where this father and son pair's confidence came from. At this moment, Chu Yang was being pushed back again and again by the demonic ape. He could only block and had no strength to fight back. How could he have a chance to turn the situation around? Junior brother Chu's most powerful weapon should be his sword, but he hasn't used it yet. A voice suddenly sounded in the hall. Everyone looked over. It was Ji Jingqing. Junior brother Chu hasn't used his sword yet. Ji Jingqing looked at Zhao Ba and said, It seems that he's keeping it for him. At this moment, Chu Yang still had a trump card. Everyone was shocked. This was too hard to believe. Ji Jingqing didn't care about everyone's reaction. He said, Do you see? Junior brother Chu in the field looks like wind. Is it wind? Wind. Many people were stunned, but Nangong Ing and Zhao Ba had already seen through the clues. At this time, Ji Jingqing opened his mouth again. Junior brother Chu seems to be like a gust of wind right now. No matter how strong the devil ape is, it can't hit or catch the wind. This is one of Junior brother Chu's sword techniques. I've felt it before. Ji Jingqing pondered for a moment before replying. Junior Chu probably has a sword art that he hasn't fully comprehended yet. He's currently trying to deduce and comprehend it. If he were to make a move later on, it might very well be a fatal blow. Killing with one strike? How dare he? Many people sneered, but at this time, the demonic ape suddenly stopped chasing after Chu Yang. Its fierce eyes actually pierced through the coiling dragon palace and stared straight at Ji Jingqing. Could it be true? Could it be that Ji Jingqing was telling the truth? It was simply unbelievable. However, the devilish ape's reaction seemed to be the best explanation. It clearly had extremely sharp senses and had heard everything that Ji Jingqing had said, which was why it had reacted in such a manner. Bang! 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 Then, a series of earth-shattering sounds rang out. The demonic ape actually retreated quickly, causing the ground to tremble. It quickly distanced itself and stared at Chu Yang with great caution. Its actions clearly showed that it was aware of the great danger it was in. Its actions also indirectly confirmed Ji Jingqing's words. Chapter 164. Ji Jingqing's face couldn't help but turn red. He even felt very regretful. How could he have revealed Chu Yang's background? At this time, Chu Yang had already taken out a sword and pointed it at the violent Vajra demon ape. Demon ape, for little six's sake, I'll give you a chance. Immediately submit to me, and form a contract with me. At the same time, little six's voice appeared in the demon ape's mind. Are you stupid? Since you're aware of the danger, why didn't you run away? As a fellow ape, you're embarrassing me. The demon ape's eyes trembled. From that voice, it could feel the pressure and fear from the depths of its soul, as if it was facing a monkey king. Although it was only for a moment, it did not doubt it. Rumble! The demon ape fell to its knees heavily. Ignorance is blameless, please, please, forgive me. The demon ape was so scared that it could not even speak properly. Chu Yang and Little Six couldn't help but stare blankly for a moment. Ji Jingqing was in fact a divine assist just now. Although Chu Yang was indeed preparing two sword moves. The last move of the wind-chasing life-stealing sword technique, the Yama form, and the other move of the fragrant elephant crossing the river, the cutting all flows. The Yama form did not have any moves. Just now, he had used his genius martial spirit to the limit and deduced it. It was as invisible as the wind, and as invisible as the king of hell. One would die upon seeing it. As for the fragrant elephant crossing the river, cutting all flow, if it could cut off the 3,000 strands of worry, how could it not cut off one's life? However, this was only the result of his deduction. As for how powerful it was, he had no idea. Chu Yang had only done this out of caution. However, he had never thought that it would actually frighten the devil ape. Boom! Zhao Meng's demonized body rapidly shriveled and shrank, then returned to its original form. However, its body lost its luster. An array of demonic light shot out and entered Chu Yang's body, disappearing without a trace. This, in an instant, it was as if the world had lost all sound, and a deathly silence filled the air. No one had expected this result. The demon ape actually submitted to Chu Yang. Could it be that the pressure from Chu Yang and the demon ape was so terrifying? Otherwise, how could such a ferocious demon ape submit willingly? Impossible. Zhao Ba's eyes widened. This was the only thought in his mind. His younger brother Zhao Meng had paid such a high price, but in the end, he had obtained such a bizarre result. He found it hard to accept. Zhao Meng, do you still want to struggle? The shriveled Zhao Meng was actually struggling to stand up, as if he wanted to fight with Chu Yang. It was truly shocking. This was a fierce person, and even more so a ruthless person. However, it had to be said that he was incomparably loyal and sentimental to Zhao family, to his own family, and to his older brother and relatives. For this, he was willing to give up everything. Zhao Meng, you and I are enemies, but I admire your perseverance. This is the greatest respect I can give you. Chu Yang took a step forward, and with a thunderous boom, he shot towards Zhao Meng like a beam of light, arriving before him in the blink of an eye. Raising his sword, he executed the wind-chasing life-reaping sword style. Chi! The sword pierced Zhao Meng's throat, and he fell to the ground with a loud thud, completely losing all signs of life. Ah Meng! Zhao Ba cried blood as he let out a sorrowful roar. Like a cannonball, he rushed out of the coiling dragon grand hall and arrived beside Zhao Meng in an instant. His body trembled as he let out a long howl towards the sky, like a wounded beast. Ah, the sorrowful howl resounded throughout the coiling dragon martial institution. Chapter 165. There was a gust of wind as Nangong Ying's figure blocked in front of Chu Yang. His reaction wasn't slow as he rushed out the moment Zhao Ba rushed out. Zhao Ba, your opponent is me. Zhao Ba's eyes were filled with deeper despair and anger. Before he died, he couldn't even kill Chu Yang. Nangong Ying, I don't mind if you want to die for this little bastard. This wasn't a presumptuous statement. Nangong Ying's eyes couldn't help but contract because he didn't know that this was the truth. Winner takes all. Chu Yang had an indifferent expression and didn't have any sympathy. If he was defeated, the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution and his family members might end up like Zhao Ba. Zhao Ba, you think too highly of yourself. Chu Yang's voice was extremely cold. If I work together with my uncle, do you think you have the chance to drag someone down with you before you die? Zhao Ba's eyes contracted as he knew it was the truth. When he recalled everything that had happened, Zhao Ba couldn't wait to eat Chu Yang alive. If looks could kill, Chu Yang would have died 1,000 times over. I will give you this chance. Chu Yang's words stunned Xiaoba, Nangong Ying, and everyone else. Uncle Nangong, step back. I want to test out my sword art. Chu Yang's voice was cold and calm. He was going to accept this challenge as a life-and-death battle was the best cultivation. He wouldn't get such an opportunity every single time. This was a rare opportunity. This was simply a madman's thought. At least, Nangong Ying thought so. Little sheep, don't be willful. Uncle Nangong, did you hear what my father said? Chu Yang's voice was very resolute. My father is right. If I am unable to proclaim myself as the overlord of the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution, surpass all my opponents and crush all my opponents, then I shouldn't go out and mingle. I should just go home and sleep. Uncle, what do you say? If it were anyone else, Nangong Ying would definitely have slapped him until his neck was crooked. However, Chu Yang could not do that. He had the qualifications to do so. Not to mention being a tyrant in Coiling Dragon Town, he could even be considered a tyrant in the Five Elements sect. Nangong Ying couldn't help but look at Chu Yunlong. Chu Yunlong nodded in agreement. Nangong Ying retreated. Xiaoba's eyes flickered. Although his voice was cold, he couldn't help but be impressed. If you can't even die in my hands, my Zhao family won't be so humiliated to die in your hands. After a pause he continued, Chu Yang, if you don't die, I hope you can continue to win, even though I can't wait to eat you alive. As an enemy, Chu Yang was able to obtain such recognition from the other party, which made him feel very proud. I will. These 3 simple words contained too much confidence. With my flesh and blood as the firewood for the fire, with my soul as the source of water, I will burn everything and flood the world. Sacrifice. Boom. The air exploded and swept out. Xiaoba was instantly set ablaze. Immediately after, half of his body was covered in flames while the other half was frozen. His entire body was bursting with an incomparably bitter aura. It was as though he had sacrificed his flesh and soul in exchange for immense power. Little sheep, retreat. Yang retreat. Chapter 166. Chu Yang didn't move. Xiaoba couldn't help but sigh in admiration. Half of his body was completely frozen. It was difficult for him to speak. Only half of his mouth was moving. Why don't you run? Why should I run? Chu Yang said, since you can use such a method, I'm afraid that outside of Coiling Dragon Town, there are countless methods that are even more terrifying than yours. Where can I escape to? This is very likely a kind of stupidity. Stupidity, cleverness, or arrogance. Since I've set my goal, I'll do it. Chu Yang said loudly. Heaven is healthy. A gentleman must constantly strive for self-improvement. As a man, there's no such thing as running away from hardship or hiding from danger. It's hard to become a man without poverty. Heaven is true without suffering. Since ancient times, heroes come out of purgatory. Riches and honor come to the mortal world. Who can succeed in life? Riding a horse with a spear determines the universe. Leading an army for thousands of miles to establish a name for future generations. Chu Yang looked at Xiaoba with a determined gaze. You can make your move now. Let me see what you're capable of. Let me see if I, Chu Yang, am qualified to leave this Coiling Dragon Town and venture out into the world. I will compete with the heavens, I will rise and fall, and I will stand proudly in this world. Everyone was moved. Hearing such words, they were very excited and impassioned. This was especially true for the young disciples. Chu Yunlong's feelings were the most complicated and profound. As a father, he longed for his son to become a dragon. But Chu Yang's change made his eyes blurred. A few months ago, he was still a little sheep willing to degrade himself. A few months later, he had been reborn and had become a real man. This is how a son should be. Xiaoba looked at Chu Yunlong with envy. He then looked at Chu Yang and couldn't help but sigh. Unfortunately, you're not my son. You're not a disciple of my Zhao clan. Buzz. A small cauldron appeared in his hand. This cauldron is a secret cauldron that the Azure Dragon School obtained by chance. It should be used to refine pills, but it can also be used to kill people. It was originally used to deal with Li Yu or Nangong Ying, but our sneak attack succeeded. This was the reason why the secret cauldron had never been used. At the same time, another reason was that the cost of activating the secret cauldron was very high, and it required time to prepare. Just now I thought that it was overkill, but now it seems that this secret cauldron is the knife that can't even kill a chicken, and you are a fierce tiger. As Zhao Ba spoke, he casually slapped the cauldron. Instantly, the essence of his flesh and blood surged into the cauldron. The entire cauldron was dyed red. In just an instant, Zhao Ba turned into a withered corpse. He even quickly turned into mud or ash. His entire person disappeared, leaving behind only a pile of mud or ash. It was unknown whether it was mud or ash. Such a scene was extremely horrifying. Many people felt a chill run down their spines, and their hair stood on end. 1. The secret cauldron enlarged rapidly, and the lid flew out. A huge whirlpool appeared in the middle of the cauldron, and finally turned into a huge black mouth of a giant beast. It erupted with a huge suction force, and suddenly swallowed Chu Yang's entire body. With a clang, the lid of the cauldron fell and closed tightly. Then, with a bang, a fierce flame emerged from the cauldron. At the same time, the sound of stormy waves came from the cauldron. The flames surged and the waves of water surged. The scene was extremely shocking. It was as if a volcano had been moved in front of everyone in an instant and was erupting right in front of everyone's eyes. The poisonous water that could melt a person's flesh and bones surged like a tide, drowning, corroding, and melting everything. Junior Brother Chu. Little Sheep. Chapter 167. Bang, bang, bang. When Chu Yang was sucked into the secret cauldron, Nangong Ying and Chu Yunlong attacked the secret cauldron at the same time, trying to save Chu Yang. The true yuan in their hands was used to break through the power of water and fire on the secret cauldron. When it landed on the secret cauldron, the power of water and fire burst out unexpectedly. The true yuan in their bodies was not that fast, so their hands were immediately scalded and frostbitten. Qi. Nangong Ying's hands seemed to be covered in oil, while Chu Yunlong's hands were completely frozen. Whose chicken wings are cooked? Whose chicken wings are frozen because they can't finish eating? Chu Yang's voice came from the secret cauldron, causing everyone to be stunned. He's fine. Nangong Ying was the most incredulous. His hands were scalded. Does his voice sound like something's wrong? Chu Yunlong was not in a good mood. He saved this brat out of kindness, but he was ridiculed. His hands had turned into chicken wings, and he was even frozen and roasted. Is that possible? Nangong Ying was still in disbelief. Chu Yunlong pointed at his scalded hands and said, "Your chicken wings are not roasted well." Chicken wings? Nangong Ying looked at his hand and came back to his senses. He understood Chu Yang's train of thought. His hand was the chicken wing. The person who wanted to roast the chicken wing just now was Nangong Ying. Nangong Ying. Why are my chicken wings? Nangong Ying was also angry, and he kicked the secret cauldron. Hey, the chicken wings are not even cooked, and I want to roast the chicken legs. I say, the person outside, can you be a little more careful? Ha ha! Everyone burst into laughter, which made Nangong Ying really angry. He had already suffered once, so how could he not learn his lesson? How could his feet be scalded again? Brother Chu, I've been completely looked down upon by your little sheep. Chu Yunlong could only smile bitterly. He was worried for nothing. You're flat to begin with. Li Yu's voice came. He had woken up and was in a good mood. He teased Nangong Ying playfully. A flat chicken is still a chicken. Let me see if the chicken wings are cooked. Ha ha. The laughter of the disciples of the martial institution made Nan Gong Ying's face darken. His heart was filled with hatred, and he angrily said, "Roast, you little sheep. When we come out of the cauldron, I will eat a whole roasted sheep." Ha ha! The disciples of the martial academy burst into laughter again. How could they easily see Nan Gong Ying in such a state? The calamity had passed, and with the death of Zhao Ba, the Zhao clan's members fell apart. They all tried to flee, but they were all killed by the disciples of the martial academy. At this moment, everyone in the Martial Arts Institute was very relaxed. Don't disturb this young master's hot bath. Go do what you need to do. Chu Yang's disdainful voice came from the secret cauldron again. You are all men. Just thinking about it makes me sick. It seemed that there was no problem. Chu Yang wanted to use the water and fire body in the secret cauldron to refine his body. After all, he had just swallowed 3 beast cores. As if recalling something, Chu Yang's voice rang out again. Thinking of that white-skinned woman, I remember one thing. I saved senior sister Wang Xiaoman like a hero saving a beauty. You guys quickly go and find her to massage my shoulders and back. While you're at it, I want her to repay me with her body. I've been waiting for this for a long time. Ha! Everyone burst into laughter, but they understood what Chu Yang meant. He was worried about Wang Xiaoman. Li Hao and Zhang Tian said, Junior brother Chu, don't worry. We will definitely find junior sister Wang Xiaoman later. As for whether she will repay you with her body, that will depend on your ability. TSK. Chu Yang said disdainfully, that's just a matter of time. Do you think I'm like you guys? You don't even know how to pick up girls. How can such a beauty not be harmed? From a man's point of view, I despise you guys. After a round of teasing, everyone left. After all, the battle had just ended, and there were many things to do, especially dealing with the Zhao family and the rebellious disciples of the Martial Arts Institute. Of course, Chu Yang could not punish the entire family and clan. The fire of the secret cauldron was only much stronger than the water and fire body tempering, but Chu Yang could still bear it. The secret cauldron was completely silent. After a series of battles, Chu Yang could be said to be physically and mentally exhausted. At this moment, if he could persist in his cultivation, he would be able to achieve twice the result with half the effort. It might be easy for others, but for Chu Yang, it couldn't be easier. The best way for him to cultivate was to sleep. Using the full martial spirit was better than cultivating by himself. Chapter 168. His whole body was relaxed, free of dust and dirt, full of spirit. At the peak of the 9th layer of the origin martial realm, his strength had dropped from the power of 1 dragon and 3 elephants to the power of 3 elephants. It was almost the same as before he devoured the beast cores. It seems that when I devoured the beast cores, my body absorbed everything from the beast cores. It was all melted away by the power of fire and water. This was Chu Yang's feeling. The monster core contained the beastly nature and instincts of a demonic beast. These naturally had to be removed. Otherwise, there would be great hidden dangers. It was just that the removal was too thorough. It seemed that nothing was left behind. Taking the essence and removing the dregs, am I the only one who understands this principle? Chu Yang couldn't help but complain. He felt that it wasn't so. In the end, there was nothing left. The essence of the beast cores had been completely removed, so he entered a deeper state of perception. This time, he seemed to have entered the starry sky of the night. The acupuncture points all over his body were like stars, shining brightly. When the acupoints lit up like bright lamps, they would release essence energy to nourish the body. Then, they would suddenly darken like a black hole, sucking in the vital energy of heaven and earth. After a while, they would light up again, and the cycle would repeat. This is the result of practicing the tyrant fist. I have officially stepped on the path of body cultivation. The effect was very shocking. If all the acupuncture points in his body were like stars, Chu Yang didn't know how powerful he would be. And he also finally sensed that after he devoured the 3 beast cores, the beast energy had indeed been completely washed away, leaving nothing behind. But there was still some gain. The general feeling was that Chu Yang seemed to have transformed into a spy, disguised as a 7-colored heaven-devouring python, a black eagle, and a white lion. He had seen through and stolen their secrets, obtained their talents, and escaped unscathed. The talents of the beasts could be said to be a secret weapon. The body was like a country. The higher the level of the weapon, the higher the fighting power of the army, and the stronger the country. Chu Yang had completely seen through it. This was very shocking. He could even predict that if he could steal all the talents of the beasts in the world, his body would evolve to a certain extent, and he would be able to change it at will. 72 transformations seems to be very promising, he. Chu Yang was excited just thinking about it. It was as if he had unknowingly obtained a supreme technique. It was as if he had obtained a piece of good fortune, but it didn't require much effort to achieve it. Nevertheless, it was still possible. He's smiling foolishly again, this idiot. Little Six cursed in his heart, despising him endlessly. 6th brother, this seems to be the legendary primordial myriad transformation body. This was the violent King Kong demonic ape. Little Six naturally couldn't let its name be higher than his, so the violent King Kong demonic ape became Little Black. As for the so-called Hongmeng 10,000 transformations, Little Six had never heard of it before. But that didn't stop him from feigning disdain. He pointed at Chu Yang's destiny twin and said, "Little Black, what's there to be surprised about? Look at this idiot's martial soul. You are making a fuss over nothing. What's more surprising is that you haven't even seen it yet." Looking at the destiny twin, Little Black couldn't help but shrink its neck. 6th brother is right, it's not strange for this idiot to learn the Hongmeng 10,000 transformations. He suddenly rejoiced in his heart. Fortunately, he was obedient at that time. Although the 6th brother he was talking about didn't seem to be a dog fart, this boss was indeed very powerful. If this boss reached a certain level, resurrecting him would be as easy as lifting his hand. I really picked up a great fortune out of nowhere. It's not easy to become the boss martial soul. I definitely won't have this kind of opportunity in normal times. Chapter 169. It was as if a cauldron of elixirs had been successfully refined, and the cauldron was opened. Chu Yang soared into the sky like an elixir. Behind him, a black eagle, a white lion, and a 7-colored sky-swallowing python appeared. It seemed to be a vision formed by the completion of the elixir. Bang! In midair, Chu Yang's body involuntarily surged with true qi. It flowed along the Mahamayuri scripture and erupted from the many meridians that had been opened in his ribs. At the same time, seeing the flow of true qi, he also felt the newly opened meridians on his back. True qi gushed out along these meridians, forming what seemed to be steel-like feathers, forming a pair of black eagle wings, spreading and flapping in the air. At the same time, Chu Yang also felt many changes in his body. True qi rushed out from many parts of his body along the newly opened meridians. In an instant, he seemed to be like a big eagle. Every part of his body was in accordance with the aerodynamic. True qi also flowed into his eyes, where there were also newly opened meridians. The influx of true qi made his eyesight extremely strong. Things in the distance fell into his eyes clearly, almost to the finest details. Suddenly, his hands seemed to have turned into steel claws, hard and sharp. His nails were crystal clear, like a blade that emitted a cold light. Chu Yang felt as if he had used the 72 changes and turned into a black eagle. It also seemed as if a black eagle had entered his body and become one with him. "Haha, I can finally fly!" Chu Yang issued a long whistle. He laughed heartily in the air. Then, he flew, circled, swooped, and rolled in the air like a young eagle who had just started to learn how to fly. He displayed all the flying postures in his mind one by one. Natural and smooth, there was almost no delay or pause. It seemed as if he was born to be able to fly. He was born to belong to the sky. He was born to fight with the sky. Carefree, incomparably carefree. His mood was indescribable. He was very excited. Suddenly, he felt the true qi around his body become chaotic. The eagle wings formed by true qi were about to collapse. He hurriedly descended from midair. What's going on? Why is there so much true qi? Chu Yang was very puzzled, but immediately understood: spiritual power. His psychic power was insufficient. The construction of the eagle's wings and the layout of the airflow around his body were all related to his true qi. Although my Zhen qi is not inferior to Zhen Yuan, its strength is not inferior. However, it lacks a spirit and soul, so I can only rely on my mental strength to support it. If my mental strength can't keep up, it will immediately collapse. This was one of the most important reasons why true essence was far stronger than true qi. The fusion of true qi and martial spirit was equivalent to the fusion of the body and soul. The true essence formed was a person. Chu Yang's true qi was strong, but it was not a person. It was just a spaceship, like a dead object, and his spiritual power was the power source of the spaceship. Looks like I have to break through to the Qi Soul stage as soon as possible. At that time, I'll be able to fly as I please, but right now, I'm afraid there's still a limit. Chu Yang could clearly sense the exhaustion of spirit, which was why he immediately understood the reason. Black Eagle can let me fly. Let's try this white lion again. Roar. Chu Yang suddenly opened his mouth and roared. A visible sound wave rushed out like a shockwave. Everything was destroyed wherever it passed. It was so loud that even the deaf could hear it. It was as if the heaven was enraged. It was so mighty that it could seize souls. At the same time, his glabella shone. A white lion appeared there, emitting a blazing light. Lion seal. This white lion has actually perfectly fused with the lion seal in the Mahamayuri Sutra. Due to the lion seal, the depleted spiritual power was like a dried-up lake. There were many large rivers flowing into it. His spiritual power was like the water in a lake, recovering visibly. Not bad, excellent. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.